It's not
This is perfect.
unrealistic.
Yeah, this is great. I'm really glad you said
No,
this
all
because
you're
now
wanting to do
yeah,
is
because
provide a
now we
safety
know
net for people and their bad decisions. That's what you're
that's
doing.
great because now we know that all you have right now is a giant virtue signal, which is make
Not a
better,
virtue
make better.
signal at all.
Yeah, it
It's
is. Yeah, it
about-
is. Your solution is a massive virtue signal. It gives you the ability to sit up on your high horse and say, hickety hee ho, make better decisions. Hiccup. When in reality, that does not lead.
Making funny noises. I'll just
I
start
am
going
going
to
to start making fun of you because what you said was very dumb.
Are you done, or can I talk?
Can you answer my question?
I mean, I'm just curious. Are you done?
I'm not here to defend BLM, but I hear you just keep saying,
here's the
use
thing.
these
So
words.
BLM did suggest for the destruction of nuclear.
Okay, you're afraid to answer my question.
I'm not afraid to answer your question.
You are. You're boo-hooing.
No, I've already read it. I've already read the statement.
You're running away. You keep reading the statement, but you won't read an explanation.
I mean, I wasn't even able to finish my argument, but...
Are you going to cry?
No, I'm not going to cry.
Well, then finish the explanation. Then we're moving on to the next topic because this is Hey everybody, I want to welcome you all to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. Right now we're short a person. We haven't gotten any communication from them, so we're just gonna try to find a replacement for them at the moment. I love IRI's big hat.
Hell yeah,
it's wonderful.
Now,
I want to thank you all for stopping by. I'm just going to run down with some basic rules quickly. The first rule, of course, is we do not break any terms of service on this channel. I would like to keep my job, and I assume many of you would like to keep your channels, so let's all make sure that we don't violate TOS. Next, I will only be talking purely to moderate. I'm not going to give my opinions. I'm not going to talk about like what I think about the nuclear family. None of that. It's going to be completely up to you guys to be giving political positions. I will just be moderating. That means that when I talk, nobody else talks. If I start talking, you got to shut it down immediately. I just wanted to make that very clear. And if you don't, there could be consequences that come with that, like muting and stuff of that sort. Wonderful. Besides that, I also have a notepad system. If you don't know what that means if at any point you find it very difficult to get yourself into the conversation, now please use it as a last resort, but if you can't, because of you're not really great at this debate stuff, just raise your hand. I'll write your name down. I'll eventually make sure the conversation shifts over to you at one point. Please try to reserve that for a point in the conversation where you just can't find your way in. Besides that, I think that's most of the rules, except for the fact that you will not be attacking people's immutable characteristics. That means no going after people's faith, no going after people's, even though maybe I added that one as a little like pin onto that. That's the only addition, since it's not an immutable characteristic, but I just don't want everybody going after each other's religions in here unless it's part of the conversation. Okay, does everybody understand the rules? Is there any confusion? No,
sir.
Wonderful. You're all veterans. Happy to hear it. Oh, we got our fellow. So,
how's it going?
I've been on here before. I don't think I have.
I think this is actually the first time you've been on here, BX. Yeah, I do think this is your first time. We're going to now go into introductions for every topic. Gonna have a 1-minute intro, 1-minute outro. And during introductions, of course, you do not interrupt other people. The same thing is for outros as well. That is just to make sure that everybody has some spirit of speaking time. That is impossible to interrupt. And if you interrupt too much, even during open format, I will intervene. So we're going to start in the top left-hand corner, as always, with BX Bullet to introduce themselves.
Hey guys, I'm BX Bullet. I'm a 2A self-defense advocate here on Twitch. Occasionally I'll comment on other things. I'm not really a political streamer, but I often get convinced into coming onto these panels because I guess I like the abuse or something. I'm just kidding. I'm happy to be here. I don't put myself in a political bucket. I'm not a political expert, first of all, so there are some things that I'm not really strong at in that sense. But also, I just feel like when people put themselves in like these absurdly specific categories, they're kind of like painting themselves into a corner. And sometimes I really feel like that limits people's ability to critically think about stuff. So for me personally, I like to research and collect my own thoughts and just kind of discuss them with others, hopefully respectively, and converse and try to fine tune where I stand on individual issues. So I feel like it helps me to remain objective and just listen and try to understand other people's perspectives. But yeah, that's me. Happy to be here. My kid is awake and she's trying to get into the room. I've locked her out, but no, I'm just kidding. I haven't. But if I have to step out for a second, it's because of that. So yep, that's me.
Wonderful. Happy to have you on for the first time. Now we're going to move over to the veteran of the show, both literally and figuratively speaking, CTV. who had a very dapper suit on the other day on Twitter. I love that.
Yesterday, as a matter of fact. Going to be wearing it this weekend at my best friend's wedding. So, that said, for those of you that don't know me, I am critically thinking veteran. I served 9 years on Ohio-class submarines as a machinist spade auxiliaryman. I have a background in engineering. I have done extensive study of philosophy and history from a lot of different viewpoints, and I'm a Christian. And I enjoy having respectful conversations. I would like to keep the tone even tonight so that we have the most productive conversation possible. However, if the conversation becomes not so respectful, you can expect me to attempt to bring balance to the room.
Happy to have you on once again, CTV. Now I'm going to throw it on to Hunter Avalon.
What's up, Dylan? Thanks so much for having me on again. My name is Hunter Avalon. I am a former right-winger turned social democrat. If you want to check out my my YouTube channel, it's just my name, Hunter Avalon. Thanks again for having me on, Dylan. Looking forward to the bloodbath.
Wonderful. He's also not a tech expert for everyone at home. Just wanted to throw that out there after last week's show. We're going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
Hi, my name is The Sprouticus. You can find me at The Sprouticus on Twitch and Twitter. I'm a constitutionalist conservative. Anyone who's watched these debates on a semi-regular basis already knows who I am and what I believe in. And just for shits and giggles here, shout out to Danabo. Go to Shell Shock CBD, code Danabo.
Wonderful. We're going to throw that over to IRI.
All right, Dylan, thanks for having me back. It's been a while. I'm excited to be here with all these rock stars of Twitch politics. I'm a liberal. My channel focuses on electoral politics, what's going on in the House and the Senate. We watch a lot of C-SPAN, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation today.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Kevin Logan.
Yes, hello there. I'm Kevin Logan. I'm a dreadful socialist streamer on Twitch and YouTube, and that's literally all I am. Hello, everyone.
Wonderful. Happy to have British representation today. Now we're going to throw it over to Supreme.
Hey, everybody. I'm Supreme.
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to... I've been saying it incorrectly all the way up to today. I've been calling it J Trump for like the last 6 months. How do you say it? He's muted.
You're muted.
So I must be saying it correctly then.
Yeah, no, J Trump is correct. That is.
Oh, it is
correct.
J Trump. That is the way you say it. Okay, got it.
Yep.
So somebody was
Wait, I thought it was
Donald?
T jump.
Yep,
Did you forget Donald?
No, it's just J Trump. Like, there's no Donald. Donald is just imposter syndrome. So yeah, I'm T-Jump. I run a YouTube channel, usually debating existence of God, philosophy on ethics and epistemology. Usually, invite on professors from different colleges to have conversations about different topics in philosophy. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And I'm a centrist politically, so everybody hates me.
Wonderful. Happy to have one of modern day debates ilk over. By the way, for everybody at home, I usually don't promote other shows, but on the 9th on Modern Day Debates, people are going to be debating if the Titanic sunk, I believe, is one of the topics, which I am personally very excited for that one. I want to see how that one went. Personally, I'd rather that theory be going around a lot more than the vaccine stuff recently. So I would rather be talking about that on national news. Be talking about that. That sounds a lot more fun.
Look, icebergs can't melt steel beams.
Yeah, icebergs can certainly not melt steel beams. I do also want to say that me and John Zerka are actually working together to produce our own panel. That should be coming into fruition in the near future. It will be a little chaotic for sure, but please look that out. That could be next Friday. It could be the Friday after. We're going to figure that out. Now that we've introduced ourselves, we're going to go into the first topic. The first topic is the preservation of the nuclear family. Many people view the nuclear family as kind of like the building block of modern America. You know, you got to have a strong family to have a strong country. And so my question is to the chat here, is the nuclear family worth preserving? Simple question. I'm going to do a little sporadically today, and I'm going to start in the bottom right-hand corner with the first-time guest, T-Jump. I fucked up. T-Trump, sorry.
J Trump. God, it's getting it wrong every time.
Every time.
Yeah, so I think that there are good pragmatic reasons to say that we should promote the nuclear family. Like, the whole idea about conservatism is that politics is hard and that building a political system that doesn't cause everyone to starve to death is difficult. And our system that we use right now, while not perfect, is keeping most people alive and well fed. Therefore, there's good reasons to accept all of the policies we have right now as relatively good and making changes to them as pretty risky overall. Therefore, the fact that the nuclear family promotes a lot of good things, like 2 sources of income that can build a healthy family and a relationship and raise a child successfully, and has been a proven model of success in the past, is something that we should uphold and keep, because it has been a good method in the past. Whereas adopting newer methods that are not as well tested is something significantly more risky. And so that is a good argument to use to promote the nuclear family. But I think that if by promoting the nuclear family you're doing things like outlawing gay marriage, I think that is absolutely wrong and we should not do that. So there are good reasons why we should promote the nuclear family, but there's also going too far by making not being a nuclear family an illegal or something that we should denigrate against. That's essentially my position.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Supreme. And that's a beautiful position, man.
I don't know. I don't have a very strong position on this. It seems like however families want to organize themselves, generally I support. It seems like, people largely agree that, more people in the home is typically better for child rearing. I guess that's great. I can agree with that. But, however people want to structure, their home life and their home family, I leave it up to them.
Okay, we're going to throw it over to Kevin Logan.
I'm not sure what people even mean by promoting a certain family structure, what that really entails. But I've no problem if people want to live in a nuclear family, but I don't necessarily think it needs to be idealized or made the cornerstone of any civilization or anything, because it's a reasonably new thing, that kind of, dare I say, almost fetishization of the nuclear family. Different family structures can work in different situations. I don't think any one should be pushed over any other.
Okay, we're going to throw it over to IRI.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of the sentiments we just heard here. I think a lot of people have this idolized version or ideal version of the nuclear family, like the 1950s, 60s, with everybody's got a mom, dad, 2 kids, white picket fence kind of stuff. But even in that scenario, kids were raised by the community. So I think that the nuclear family's kind of thrown around like a political football, but the focus should be more on community, I think, and just your support system. It doesn't matter if 3 best friends raise you, in my opinion. It's more about the community.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
My position on the nuclear family is I believe the nuclear family. At the same time, I don't think that you should be limited, such as if you wanted to be in a gay marriage. I don't think that should be outlawed because of the idea of the nuclear family. I just believe the nuclear family is the best way to push kids out to this world, the best way for kids to have support moving forward. I just believe it's the best in general when pushing kids out to the world via family, at least.
Okay, we're going to throw it over to Hunter Avalon.
Sure. So I actually wrote up something a little bit for this. So in most cases, the nuclear family has been demonstrated to be good for children. Stability tends to lead to better behavior and healthier growth. But I think that how we recognize and support nuclear families needs to change. For one, we can start by accepting LGBT parents. It sounds like most people on this panel already agree with this, that 2 parents raising a child is a good environment, and that applies to both straight and gay couples. So there's 2 main issues right now with how society interacts with the nuclear family. First, I think the nuclear family needs stronger communal support, whether that be geographically or through extended family. Secondly, if a parental absence occurs, the default should not be single parenthood, but rather communal child rearing. Although this might sound a little out there, this is a much better alternative to single parenthood. And the limited research we actually have on communal parenting shows pretty positive results. So ultimately, the nuclear family, it seems to be a good thing, but nuclear families aren't always attainable. And if our interest is in the betterment of children, preserving the nuclear family needs to go hand in hand with communal support and LGBT rights.
Okay, now we're going to go over to BX Bullets, and CTV seems to have disappeared into the nether realm.
Well, it's interesting that I'm going to have like the first like base take here. Anyways, hi, single mom. The value of a nuclear family is a myth that needs to die. All right. So for one thing, I think that whatever prevalent family dynamic is, like a given time, tends to be a reflection of society. So as society evolves, so do family dynamics. It's not something that's going to be static throughout history, right? For example, now we've got like more workforce equality. We got more opportunities for women in the workplace, for example. And I think any detriments that arise from single parent households are really more likely to arise from socioeconomic factors, not just from like, not having a dad or whatever. So I don't think we should be trying to force fit a particular family dynamic. I think it makes sense to just adapt alongside society. I also think that people who praise a nuclear family completely disregarding other types of families that are oftentimes just as good. Like in my case, I'm divorced, and I think my daughter's upbringing can be best described as like an extended family upbringing on both sides of the table. But what's important is she's got tons of supportive family. I work my ass off to make sure she's got a good upbringing, and she's got all the opportunities she needs in life. I truly believe she would be worse off if I were still married to her dad, because that shit was toxic as fuck. You can't just say that two parents in a household is going to be magically better. Like, not everybody had that kind of upbringing. Not everybody's better off in a nuclear family. So lots of different types of families can be good. I also think that the biggest problem with glorifying nuclear family is it leads to stigma and even like in some cases like discrimination against single parents, like who honestly might not be at fault at all. Like in the case that a parent dies or something, and I think sometimes that idealized nuclear family can even lead to like a self-fulfilling prophecy where single parents end up with this stigma and this pressure that ends up straining their relationship with their kids and could even lead to poor outcomes just because of that. So one more thing I add, I was kind of like looking into some of the data out there because I was looking at some different takes on this, looking at the data that shows that, kids tend to grow up and succeed more with like a nuclear family type of environment. But there's a lot of controversy around that because it's kind of equating correlation to causation. And obviously there's tons of factors that determine a child's success, not whether it has a mom and a dad or two moms or two dads. Again, like we see the nuclear family being exclusive to LGBT. So that's definitely an issue. So no, I don't think we need to be wasting time and resources trying to preserve the nuclear family. I think it's a fucking waste of time and we should just let it die.
Okay, and to wrap us up is the leader of the Wolf Pack, CTV.
Well, I think that it's important for everyone to realize that when it comes to preserving the nuclear family, right? We're talking about, man, woman, has kids, right? When a man and a woman get together and they end up having children, right? One of the best things that those parents can do throughout the course of the child's life is to show stability, right? And conflict resolution. Because if you don't know how to resolve conflict, then you ultimately end up in a perpetual state of emotions, right? So whenever I consider the idea, it's obvious to me that the way that children come into this world is whenever a man and a woman get together and they, say, get the sperm and the egg together, right? So then when that happens, there's a child brought into the world. Now, regardless from there, the individuals that engaged in the act are responsible for the creation of it. Now, there's a lot of situations out there where kids were put up for adoption or any number of cases where kids need to be adopted, right? So this is exactly where any other body that maybe doesn't have the ability to have a child can step in there and fill that role, right? No issues with any part of that. But when it comes to the idea of the broad population of the planet, right? It's obvious that it starts with a man and a woman mixing the sperm and egg together to create the life. And I think that preserving the idea that if you're willing to engage in that kind of activity and possibly bring the life to bear, that you should be responsible for the life and be doing so together. That's just my take.
Okay, now you're allowed to engage with somebody else in a more open format. You're free to discuss. At the end of the discussion, you have a 1-minute outro segment, uninterrupted as well. It's open.
Okay, so something real quick. So just because I'm praising the nuclear family doesn't mean that I'm saying that the nuclear family is the best option for everyone, where the father of the kid needs to stay in the picture, because oftentimes, or not oftentimes, there can be times when the father is abusive, when it's not the best idea for the mother to stay in the picture. At that exact same time, the kid needs to find someone else who can take the role of the father figure. According to Psychology Today, there are 14 things that are found to be true statistically with an absence of a father figure. Children's diminished self-concept and compromised physical and emotional security, behavioral problems, truancy and poor academic performance, delinquency and youth crime, promiscuity and teen pregnancy, drug and alcohol abuse, homelessness, exploitation abuse and emotional maltreatment, physical health problems, mental health disorders, life chances, future relationships, and mortality.
All right, I have a
those are the
question.
14 things that
I have a
Psychology
question.
Today. Go ahead.
I do have a question. Somebody else said this before, but like, okay, what are we trying to do to force people to fit into this mold?
What's the
Like,
purpose
obviously, there's situations where it's not going to happen. Great. Yeah, that's great. Oh, mom and a dad and a loving marriage and everything is perfect. That's not reality.
Yeah.
It's just not
It's
reality for
oftentimes not-
everybody.
it's
So how are you
oftentimes not-
supposed to, how are you trying to preserve it? That's my question, like through
That's what I
policy.
would ask. Yeah, what exactly does it mean by encourage or try and foster it? What practical public policy choices are people trying to make to force people into this preconceived idea of what a family
And all I
unit
can
is?
think is like
I mean, this
tax
is-
law and stuff where like, you know, you get different tax credits for double income, but
or whatever?
Okay, well, I want to for Supreme, but I want to make sure Hunter was trying to say something earlier. So
No,
after-
it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go. Please
Okay.
give it to the next guy.
Okay, real quick, I want to set up this straw man so that we can all recognize it's a straw man. I want to see if anybody agrees with this line of reasoning, because there's a line of reasoning that's often posited by like, you know, trad cons on various platforms that there is a problem with subsidizing single mother homes or something like that, and that like there are women who are, in order to collect welfare checks, like kicking father figures out of the home or something like that, which seems like a completely backwards analysis
that's
to me.
ridiculous, dude.
Yeah,
Nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
Give me your sperm, now get out. I need my
Oh.
money. Like, who really does that though? Like, how
But
big of a problem is that?
This is a popular line of reasoning in like conservative circles, and I want to just like I'm wondering if anybody
People
subscribes
abuse
to
the
it.
welfare system no matter what.
Well,
I mean,
right.
I
so-
personally think it's I personally think this system is necessary to, you know, because it's for like children, right? Like I've never met a single mother who like prefers not having help around the house, or like
Single
you know,
mother subsidies or anything like that should be targeted to lower income single mothers.
Yeah, I
Because there
don't
are
think-
plenty of single mothers out there who are doing just fine. I can promise.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's making the decision either to leave a partner or to get married or to do any of these massive life decisions on the basis of an incremental tax incentive or something. Like
That's a
people
little
don't
weird
make
to
those
me.
massive life decisions
I guess
based
it's
on
possible.
$5 a week or something. Like no one cares. That's not why people are doing anything.
So to kind of respond to what BX Bullet was asking to begin with, is that I don't think it's forced. I think it should be encouraged. I think that the statistics strongly show that children who grow up with any kind of father figure, and again, it doesn't have to be the biological father, it's just someone this kid sees as a father.
so what's the function of bringing this up though?
I'm sorry?
What is the function of bringing this up?
What's the function of bringing this up? That it's miles and miles better for a kid.
You know,
having
listen,
fi-
hold on.
to
I'm
have
going
a
to stop you
father
right there
figure.
because I feel like we're, hold on. I think that we're basing this on.
Wait. I wanna allow Sprout to finish.
Okay.
He wasn't getting to talk there. Sprout, you can finish.
Okay, it's miles and miles better for children to have some kind of father figure in the house, because according to studies from Psychology Today, it obviously shows that fathers have an important part in developing a child, just as important as the mother does. So it could go the opposite way around, that if you're a single father, that you should find someone that this kid can take as a mother figure to them, because they're gonna need both the mother and the father figure to do what to not I guess not gonna need it to do well, but it definitely
Just so I
helps.
understand correctly, the function of you bringing this up is because it sounds like you're proposing as a solution that, for example, single mothers that don't have a father figure in the house should just find one. It sounds like that's
Yeah,
your
that's a
solution.
little. That's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
what I
you can
got
say
out
that.
of.
You can
Not
say
what
that,
he's
but
saying, but just in
a
general.
grandpa can be considered a father figure, an uncle can be considered a father figure. I'm
That's
not
true, but
saying
that's
I'm
not a
I'm not
nuclear
saying go.
family
I'm saying
setting.
I'm not.
Well, that would be more in the communal thing, like kind of like what I was
Yeah.
talking about.
Like, I mean,
And also,
my parents have a. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, like the thing is when we're talking about like statistics, and then you have like a personal experience with this, it's not like a condemnation or like a moral condemnation against like you as a single parent or anything. But like, I don't think that we can deny the reality of what the statistics and what the available research says. It doesn't mean that 100% of the time a nuclear family is always better, but the research is here. It's pretty much like a universally accepted fact at this point that having two parents provides stability, and that's really, really important for the raising of a child. Now, I don't think that it has to be a mother or a
to
father.
do to make that happen?
Well, I'm not necessarily talking even about preserving it, but your original claim, if I'm not mistaken, was that like it's all just like a myth and this needs to die out.
I
But
really
like,
think it is. I mean,
there are
coming
some
from a
very
perspective
real.
of a single mom and knowing a lot of other single parents who are doing just fine, their kids are just fine. I know a lot of friends
Sure,
who were
this
raised
doesn't.
by single parents who are just fine. It's anecdotal at best.
Well, this is the
All of
thing.
No,
this.
what
It's not.
you're giving me is anecdotes at best.
Well, no, but it's
Okay,
not.
well,
Yours
the
are
problem with the
anecdotes. I'm giving you
data,
data.
the problem with the data is that there's all kinds of other factors that could perhaps cause certain types of demographics to be less likely to have a nuclear family. And there's all kinds of
true.
different demographic issues and socioeconomic factors that could factor into that. That's why
That's true.
that's why
I'm not
that
denying
data
that.
that you're quoting is so controversial, because people have been very quick to point out that there's any number of factors that can go into what causes a kid to succeed and what causes a nuclear family to dissolve.
Okay,
Okay,
I
so
want
I've got a,
true.
so I've got a question.
Give me,
So
give me a moment. I want to make sure Hunter has time to respond. Then I'm gonna write down Sprout and Kevin, because both of you want to say things. Okay, so
All I was
Hunter.
going to say is it's true that there are a wide range of socioeconomic circumstances. Sometimes, like you said, it is not the fault of the single parent that they are even a single parent. I'm not making any moral claim here. All I'm trying to do is get you to acknowledge that your initial claim that this idea that like a nuclear family is generally better for a child is like somehow a myth or something. That's pretty ridiculous.
Okay. Perhaps, even if we're going to just take the data at face value and say it's not a myth, what is honestly the benefit to telling single mothers, well, a nuclear family would be better? It would be better if your kid had a dad in the house. What is the
Well,
benefit? And
we
how are
probably
we
wouldn't
going
want
to
to tell
preserve
people
it?
that, but well, we don't
How are we
probably
gonna
wouldn't want to tell people
preserve
that.
it?
But the point of me telling you that right now in this debate is just to correct what you said at the beginning. That's all.
Well, wouldn't it
Well,
be?
it's not a correction. It's just that's my opinion.
I
But, I
think
mean,
the
you can
issue.
disagree.
Well,
Just-
but your opinion's wrong.
We can throw it
Like
to
it's
Sprout
just
quick.
an
Sprout,
opinion. That's all it is.
Kevin, then Ira.
So okay, so I think the issue the issue we're coming across is how would you do this legally? How would you do this? I'm just saying encourage it. And
What does that mean,
I
though?
don't. So if I could continue going, I'm not really sure how to encourage it. So once we can get on a basis of saying, okay, this should be encouraged, maybe we could talk about how we could encourage this in a way that helps everyone and doesn't harm single parents. BX Bullet, I'm happy that your kids and the people who you talk to, single parents, their kids are doing great. Unfortunately, that seems to be an outlier according to statistics, because you can't argue with certain statistics like 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. 85%
What I'm
of you.
arguing is that there are other factors that play into certain demographics being less likely to have a nuclear family dynamic that provides you're equating correlation with causation. That's why I'm cautioning you on that data. That's what I'm debating.
I don't know that it's correlation with causation when you have something as high as 90%. 90% of runaway children have an absent father.
No, it is
So-
correlation. It's impossible to prove causation virtually.
Okay,
virtually
well,
impossible.
do you think
Who's
that
presenting an
do you think a father not being in the household is a non-factor for these statistics?
I think it's an unavoidable factor. And that's why my point isn't that like it's better to be a single parent or it's better to have two families or it's better to have grandparents. I'm saying what's better for each situation is going to vary. And there's no point in trying to force fit people into a mold, right? What that doesn't necessarily make sense for them. And, you know, it does cause stigma. It does, you know, create changes in policy. So it is important that we address these kind of issues. You know, modern day life is different than it was back in the 1950s and 1960s. People are getting married later. People are maybe not getting married at all. People are having kids later. Women in the workforce are actually making a lot more money now. So things are changing in society, and it's okay if the common family dynamic, you know, adapts those societal changes. I don't know why we feel a need to just drive home this, no, you need to have two parents raising this child in the house or the child's going to run away and be
I don't think anyone's saying that you need to.
Well, that's where
the
the
problem is
no, you're not saying it.
Just wait. Shut it down. There's so many people talking at the same time. I want to be able to throw it to Kevin, who raised his hand earlier, because he was waiting patiently. Then
Can I take like 30 seconds?
I give you 10. I give you 10.
10 seconds is fine.
Okay.
I think the issue when we're talking about preserving the nuclear family is more so that there are other groups such as BLM who have called for the destruction of the nuclear family. So it's more as a response to that than actually preserving. So.
Okay.
No,
Kevin
that's
Hogan?
even wrong. Also,
Yeah.
that's not.
Okay. It's not
That's
wrong.
actually a bastardization of the truth. But
It's
Yeah,
not
I
a
wouldn't expect
bastardization
anything
of the
better
truth.
from Sproticus.
It's not a bastardization of the truth. I can pull up where BLM
Their
has said that
concept
they're
of
calling for the
destroying the
destruction
And
of
I
the
can
nuclear
pull up
family.
the
Wait,
ex- and I can
wait,
pull up
wait,
that
one
and
at
I
a
can
time,
explain
please.
to you without pulling anything up that although the claim originally that they made was poorly phrased, sure, what they were actually talking about was getting rid of the normalization of the nuclear family and being more accepting towards communal living, which is sometimes more accessible for these individuals in these Black communities where there might be a higher rate of single parenting. We're talking a lot about, should we be encouraging the nuclear family? Should we be encouraging single parenthood? Oftentimes, single parenthood is not oftentimes, but
So
a lot of
I'm
the times it's
speaking-
inevitable. So we
so
should
I'm
talk more
speaking
about
on-
communal parenting rather than anything else here.
I'm speaking on what sparked all of this, and what did spark all of this was communities like BLM calling for the destruction of the nuclear family, which you obviously
They didn't
not going
call
to
for the
deny.
destruction
I can
of the
pull
nuclear
up where they
family.
called for
What
the
does it
destruction.
matter
Okay.
if some
Wait,
friend? What does it matter if?
We can just wait till he does that, but I really want to give it to Kevin. Kevin's just been sitting there waiting.
Give it to Kevin while I look it up.
IRI and J Trump, I've written you down.
Yeah, it's a misnomer to identify fatherlessness as the issue. It's about having ideally two or more parental figures. A, because of socioeconomics. If you've got two incomes, the positive outcomes for that child's life is going to be hugely improved. It's just true. Doesn't mean that a single parent household can't be perfectly good. But as with the example Sprout gave of a grandfather being a father figure, that's not a nuclear family structure. So it doesn't have to be a nuclear family structure to have the benefits of what we see from the data as a nuclear family structure. Okay. And secondly, I think it's an important question to try and ram home. If you want to encourage the nuclear family, what are the public policy initiatives you want to enforce to try and bring that about? Because if you just say, well, I don't really have a plan for this, then all you're doing is conservative virtue signaling, which is empty and pathetic.
Exactly.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to IRI, then J Trump. Hopefully by then we'll have the direct quote from BLM.
Yeah, I want to just focus on this idea that having a father in the household brings all these wonderful things. I think it just brings another income. It brings more support for spreading responsibilities. And so introducing stuff like the expanded child tax credit that Biden and the Democrats put forward, $300 for kids 5 and under, 6 and up, 250, stuff like that makes a huge difference. And now you take some of the pressure off, and we can have people raising families however they want. I want to ask Sproticus something, though. Your list of concerns there included promiscuity. Do you think there's something wrong with having many sexual partners?
I think that can statistically lead to other things that are not going to lead you down a successful way of life. Yes, I think that if you have many sexual partners, that you're statistically not going to be as successful
drinking?
as someone who has per se one sexual partner.
I mean, it sounds pretty
drinking?
base to me. I don't know why you would have an issue with that. You should have all the fun you can in life, no?
Well, I mean, I couldn't tell you. I've only had one sexual partner. That's been my wife. So I couldn't tell you.
Well, I can tell you Bill Gates is pretty successful and he fucks everybody.
including.
So can I get back to really
Including
quick fact checking
consumers.
Sproticus?
Sorry.
So I found the exact claim. Sproticus, did you find the exact quote, or do you want to read it first?
I did find the exact quote, and I can go ahead and read it for you. We
Okay,
disrupt
go
the
ahead.
Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. That's the
Okay, so what
exact
did I
quote
say?
from-
I said that they didn't call to abolish the nuclear family, but rather they were talking about extending that to mean more communal parenting. So
I mean,
thank
we
you
can
for
look
reading the
into-
quote
we-
and now
so-
proving me right. It was even
so
more
we- so
satisfying
we-
hearing it
so
come
we
from
can-
your mouth.
So
we can
we
move on to the
look
next
into-
topic
we
then.
can
Thank you
look
for the
into
concession.
we can look into what disrupt means, and it's not a concession. This is obviously
look
a
into it.
deal and is meant.
Take some time
So
to
you want to
look
look
at
into it? That's fine. We'll look up the definition.
Why
My
does it
dear,
matter
okay,
what
well,
they said?
Okay.
though?
Well, we're looking up another
So-
thing now. Apparently, we're gonna throw it over.
We
to
don't
J.
need
Trump.
to look it up anymore. It says right here. Black Lives Matter full statement about
Interrupt-
family shows that it wants
interrupt
people to
by
support
causing
one another
disturbance or a
broadly.
problem.
Okay.
Excuse
Look.
me.
Oh, okay. Can I
Just
be
really quick.
Quick.
Dylan,
I had a
I
lot
promise
of.
I'll- 10 seconds. 10 seconds here.
Hunter, please.
So
Okay,
a
but
few
I-
things, like the fact that it says disrupt and it
Whoa,
can be
Dylan's
interpreted.
trying to get control of the room. Everybody else, shut the fuck up.
Damn. DTV cowboy. I'm gonna throw it over to J. Trump, which I'm gonna hand it to him. But I just want to say, another debate about definitions, just like yesterday. It's a fun day here at DylanBurnsTV. You can go back to the disrupt conversation, but I want to get away from the definitions because we're not talking about Black Lives Matter. We're talking about the nuclear family. So I just want to bring us back in. Over to J. Trump.
Yeah, so just a quick point on that is like, yeah, you can interpret it either way. Using fuzzy language is like a part of politics that you specifically do that, so it can be interpreted in both ways. So it's not really an argument one way or the other. But the point of debating whether or not we should have a nuclear family is not to say that single parent homes can't work. They can. There's obviously many examples of single parent homes that are far better than many nuclear families. But what we care about is which one statistically works more often for more people and in more cases. If one of them works more often, then that's the one we should promote in a society because it's the most successful. Like if we're in a society and we want people to succeed more, we should try to promote the most successful methods of doing that and not promote the ones that don't work with a higher probability. So, and the way we should do this is advertising, education, tax credits, whatever, just simple methods to try and promote that kind of activity rather than another kind of activity. And since we know for a fact that statistically that single parent homes do not do as well as the nuclear family, then we should promote the nuclear family. Like obviously this isn't correlation. We can never prove causation ever. All science is correlation as far as we can tell.
When
It
you
doesn't
say
matter.
when you say advertising, do you just mean like conservative propaganda at public expense?
Well, it's not conservative. So if we know it for a fact it works, this is no political thing. It's just a fact. We know this works.
What
I have a
political
question.
faction are going to be doing that advertising push if not conservative?
Well, yeah, the
It's not gonna
government
be
would,
liberals,
but
is it?
not a political faction. So it's apolitical.
Okay,
It's a
Supreme.
fact. If there's a fact, like the same reason we promote science, it's not because it's a liberal agenda. Science is true. That's
No,
why
but
we
this is a
promote it.
conservative agenda. Let's not pretend
No,
otherwise.
no. So again, if something is a fact and it is true, then there's no agenda here. It's
Yeah,
just
but it's not
a
the
fact
nuclear
and
family.
it's
It's
true.
having two-parent households, which could be 3, 4, 5-parent households. It's about income largely.
Okay,
And
so
it
we
could
know
be-
for a
and
fact.
it doesn't
again,
have to be
you can-
heteronormative. It could
It's
be a
not
gay
just
couple.
income. It also is like communication skills.
But it could be
etc.
it could be a gay couple or a
Yeah, that's true.
non-monogamous couple or something.
So again, the data shows that yes, nuclear families do better. Like if you want to argue with the data and show, well, maybe it's this reason and not that
Data
reason.
says
Yeah, you can
yes.
do that. It doesn't matter. The data exists. We show that nuclear families do work. De facto, the case they do work
No
better.
one's saying they don't work. It's about what there are other things that do work as well, and not trying to force people to do things that are outside of what they're interested in. Maybe a gay couple are better than a certain hetero couple. Why should one have to have either of the genders or whatever present?
Nuclear
It doesn't
family could
matter.
mean gay people, though. Could mean a gay couple.
Yeah,
It can do, but that's
even
when
if we grant what you're saying, it doesn't
Spartacus is
matter.
saying that. I don't think that's what Spartacus means, and I don't think that's what most people mean when they say this kind of frankly.
Sproticus, are you okay with gay marriage?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
The actual question you want to ask him is, do you consider like two gay fathers in the household the nuclear family? Is that the term you would use to describe that setup?
No, it's not.
See, that's what I
Okay,
mean.
so then you are advertising for like, are you talking about like promoting like a heterosexual relationship?
I wrote your name down, Supreme. You can put your hand down.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that a mother role and a father role both statistically have been proven to give the child a better
No, that's wrong.
path forward in life. I mean, you can disagree.
No,
with me
you're
if you want
adding a
to.
qualifier there that's not true. You're adding the mother and the father part, where it's actually the two parents or more being a source of stability that's actually important.
This is what I mean by saying it's Christian conservative propaganda, because this is what they mean. They mean,
well, if you actually look up the definition of nuclear family,
I mean,
it actually doesn't have anything to do with a man and a woman.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I don't
Wait,
think.
there's three people talking at the same time. Okay, one moment. There's three people talking at the same time. I want to give it to. I want to make sure Sprout has a little bit of time to respond. Then I'm gonna give it to Supreme. And BX had a bullet to ask. Fuck, I fucked it up again. J Trump earlier. I don't know why. It's such a simple name. So Sprout, you have a little bit of time.
You do
to
realize
respond.
that's a joke, right? It is. T Jump is my actual YouTube name. J Trump is just a joke.
Oh wait, really?
My brain is melting now. Now I'm even more confused than ever. I'm
You're
just
gaslighting us.
I'm just
So,
gonna
yeah,
call him.
James started
I'm gonna
out
call him
with
Recliner Man. Are you on a recliner or a couch?
It's a lazy boy chair. Yeah,
Lazy
it's
Boy.
recliner.
Okay, I'm gonna call you Recliner Man now. That's your nickname. Okay.
That's pretty nice.
So we're gonna throw it over to Sprout to finish up a response, and then Supreme and BX.
So I'm not suggesting that gay parents can't have kids. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm just suggesting that the typical nuclear family is what should be pushed, or not pushed, but promoted at least, because and someone's saying that mother and father has nothing to do with children. Mother and father actually impact early childhood brain development. And this has been proven in study after study. It impacts the brain development of an early child.
Does it impact it
you
in
can
a
disagree with
positive
that
way?
if you
Does
want
it impact
to.
it in a way?
It
Does it
impacts
impact
in a
it in a way
positive
that's
way.
necessity to the child's
Mother
development? Because I
there
can
being a
send you
mother and a
some.
father impact childhood brain development in a positive way.
Okay. I mean, that's very possible, but I can also send you multiple studies showing that when you compare children raised by gay parents as opposed to children raised by straight parents, they fare equally as well, if not sometimes better. So
Okay. I mean,
so when you're saying we need
you
to
can talk about
I
that.
like
You
how
can
this
talk about
data is
that.
being mixed together right now.
Oh wait, if anybody
and
wants to post data, post it in chat. I'll put it in the post
Okay,
it.
here's
I'll
a
put it.
Cornell
I'll put
article.
it in chat. There's an NIH.gov. It's in your chat. Are both parents always better than one? Parental conflict and young adult well-being. It goes
both
further
parents
into it goes further into going into biological parents. If you actually read the study. I mean, I can read you the abstract if you want to, but that would just take time, and I think it'd be a little bit annoying for the chat.
Sure, so
but
I can read you something different. This comes from actually this is a systematic review or a meta-analysis. I'd have to look over to be sure. But either way, this is looking over 79 different scholarly articles, okay? Taken together, this research forms an overwhelming scholarly consensus based on over 3 decades of peer-reviewed research that having a gay or lesbian parent does not harm children. So there's that, and then there's also this one here, which is a brand new study that actually just came out. I think it was recently, either in 2020, where they compared school outcomes of children raised by same-sex parents, and then the children that were raised by same-sex parents actually fared better than their heterosexual counterparts. So you might be right that there's probably certain positive development that might come from biological parents. That's fine, sure. There are also there's a conversation to be had about just being put up for adoption in general, maybe not being as ideal as being raised by your biological parents all the time, whatever. There's a conversation there. But if we want to talk about the nuclear family and what that means to promote that, it sounds like what you're saying is you want to promote one man, one woman. And what I'm saying is you need to explain why that is, why you think it's worth promoting that, when the data that we have shows very clearly that gay parents can help children and are beneficial to children's growth just as much.
I mean, I'm really curious as to what your studies are and how they're better than the NIH.gov
Yeah,
study.
this is from the American Sociological Review, and
I mean,
this
I thought we
is
were
from
posting links. I thought we were posting links in chat.
Yeah, where do I put the link?
You can you're
and
supposed to
Dylan-
post. You're
Better than
supposed to
yours.
post a link in the Discord chat, and then I'll link it in chat.
Oh,
Either's fine.
okay. Well,
But I'm gonna throw it now over to Supreme as the links are posted. Then BX.
I kind of want to attempt to reconcile the, I guess, the disagreement that was had between Hunter Avalon and BX Bullet earlier in the conversation, because I think broadly everybody agrees, and I personally fail to see the function in a statement like we need to encourage the nuclear family. First, can we get everyone to agree or disagree that, well, first off, having a 2-parent household and having a 1-parent household are mutually exclusive. You cannot have both, right? You can only have a set number of parents in the household. If you do not have a nuclear family, you cannot have a nuclear family, right? So encouraging one comes implicitly at the cost of discouraging the others, or it can have this effect. Can we broadly agree that this is true?
Yes.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
That was the point that
Yeah.
I was about to make.
I feel like this is the
jump.
perspective. BX, do you mind if I use you as an example? You're a single mother, correct? I don't want to like make personal statements or make you, say anything that makes you feel like personally attacked or anything, but I feel like I understand.
Why don't you just use like Hunter as an example?
Because she can relay her experience.
It's fine. No, it's fine. I'm it's
okay.
fine.
So
Okay.
from your perspective, you're hearing all these people say we need to encourage the nuclear family. And from your perspective, what you're hearing is, wow, people are saying they need to discourage my lifestyle.
But it's really funny because like I'm the only single mom on the panel and I have all of these like dudes saying, no, you should be married. It's better. I'm like, okay.
Right. And you
I
have
never said that.
chosen your lifestyle.
Well, no, but yeah, I kind of did.
Yeah,
but
nobody
No, I
here
really
has
didn't.
said
Hang on. We'll get there. You have chosen your lifestyle based on a set of decisions that you consider to be reasonable and to be the best decisions for you in your situation, correct? I think,
Exactly,
Hunter,
yes.
you acknowledge, or at least you respect that BX has made this decision in the best faith for the best decisions that she can make.
Right. I'm not
I
on
literally said
welfare.
at the
I'm not
beginning-
trying to scam
that's fine.
Even if
welfare.
you were on welfare, I would
Would you-
pass no judgment at all. I literally said I'm not making a moral claim and that there are justifications there.
What Hunter,
Okay.
what Hunter is trying to ask you to acknowledge is simply that like more money and more role models and stronger role models in the household tends to be better for kids.
I do agree, but that's why in my intro I was arguing for more of like an extended family structure, which I think is kind of what Hunter was also saying when he was talking about community.
Yeah, but you said the benefits of the nuclear family was like a myth, kind of. That's what I was
because
calling
there's
out.
plenty of other family dynamics that can work just as good for a
Exactly.
family, is what I'm
Wait a minute.
saying.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the overwhelming benefits are moot.
There's multiple people talking. I see Supreme's kind of like going down a line of logic. I would like to see him like try to finish that line of logic.
So we can understand this. When you say the nuclear family or the benefit of the nuclear family is a myth, how are you interpreting the term nuclear family, BX Bullet?
Either a husband and a wife with 2 incomes raising a child, or married to, or also a gay lesbian couple. I think would be the same as long as they were married and combined income living in the same house.
So would a nuclear family not be and a mother who stays at home and takes care of the kids? Would that not be a nuclear family?
Of course it would, as long as they're married, or at least like cohabiting and sharing all finances, and it's essentially married, common law marriage.
When you say that it's a myth, what you mean by that? It sounds like to me that that you're saying like that in this case, like a husband or a significant other, a partner, could be supplanted by a best friend, or another relative.
What I'm saying is not that the nuclear family is a myth. I didn't say that. I said that this idea that we need to preserve it, I feel, is a myth. I feel like this is what I was going to say to T-Jump. I keep wanting to call you J-Trump now because now I'm hella confused. But when you were talking about all these incentives, tax credits for married couples and this and that, I mean, doesn't it seem like if you're going to give tax credits and give incentives for one, you're doing the opposite to the other? And the single parents are the ones that are actually suffering. So it doesn't make sense to me to try to incentivize somebody getting married, because I could just put people in the situation where it's like, fuck, I don't want to. So like,
there
one of the
should
things I was
just
gonna
be
say is like,
tax credits for people that have children.
right.
That
So I
cuts out
agree.
whether they're
I agree.
single kid families or
Yeah,
single
I don't
mothers
think we
or-
should try to penalize. Hold on, I've been waiting a
ahead.
long time. Hold on. All right, I don't think we should try to penalize married couples. And furthermore, I'd say that there are some states that make it really fucking hard to get divorced, like to the extent that it's almost impossible to do in some cases. And in that case, like I've known people who just couldn't afford to get a divorce, and they were just raised in a dysfunctional household. Like they didn't get along at all. That kid's constantly listening to mom and dad fight, and dad's sleeping on the couch. They're both cheating on each other. I know plenty of these types of situations, but they just don't want to get a divorce because it's fucking hard, So they already do a lot of things to try to like, ooh, stay together, stay married. Marriage is great, but like there's plenty of situations and that's not best for the child. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think that we should be making it harder on single parents to make that decision, because we made a decision, like we made an intentional decision.
I'm gonna grab this right here for a second, and I want to throw it over to T-Jump, who has been wanting to assist me for a little bit.
Yeah, she asked me a question. She asked, would be giving benefits to one group be doing the opposite to the other? Well, no. Giving benefits to one group does not denouncing the other group or taking benefits away from another group.
Not taken away, but like you're encouraging one at the expense of the other.
Right.
No, there's no expense there. Like I can give money to one person without it being.
Well, okay, so then you're saying
person.
we should give money to both people then.
No, I'm saying that we should do
So
certain.
you're just giving money
actions
to one of
no,
them.
No, don't like you could listen for a minute and then you'll know. So what we can do is we can have different kinds of programs, some to benefit people in certain cases and some in certain other cases. The point of the programs to benefit the nuclear family would be incentives to try and get people to do it more, and the incentives for or the assistance given to single mothers would be things given after it's already occurred. So there are different contexts in when we would apply these benefits. One for the nuclear family is before you have kids. So like high school education, teach this in high school education. That would be a good time to teach that the nuclear family is a good thing. Whereas for single mothers, obviously that would come after you have a kid. So when you apply the benefits would be impacted by the goal of the benefits. But giving benefits in one case is not denouncing or taking anything away from the other group. That's just not how it works.
Okay, so get rid of student loans then. Why do people cry about getting rid of student loans?
What does that have to do with the topic?
Because people play they're getting something and other people aren't, and they get mad.
Yeah, and in both cases, right, there were decisions that were made by individuals along the way, right? Which is where I say preserve the nuclear family, because then at least there's responsibility for people engaging in an act that they either knew or should have.
CTV. That's so bad.
Oh, it's not.
It is.
It's not.
You're completely.
Look, I haven't said anything
about
this whole
other
fucking
people's
time.
realities.
I haven't said anything this whole time, right? So I've been being quiet this whole time, right?
Nice.
So because of that, right, the responsibility that these people were engaging in this act, either known or should have known that it could have created a life, and then at the point where they did, that's where things like therapy, right? Learning conflict resolution.
Sure,
right?
just stay with your abusive alcoholic husband. Good idea.
Interrupting me right now and making a point to a very nuanced situation that seems to be like the focus of your attention rather than speaking about society as a whole is where we're at right now, right? So from here, this is where in the past, a lot of these things would have been being more communal based, right? More community based by way of say like the church or something like that, right? Or that there was just real close community. So they would have been encouraged to stay together. It's different in the modern age because now we're encouraging people to just engage in freelance sexual activity. We're encouraging, people to say, oh, well, I just can't get along with somebody, yet they are, right? We just had Pride Month last month, right? Okay.
What does that have to do with
has everything to do with it, right? Because you're celebrating sexuality. Thank you. Now,
wait, but they can't reproduce. So what would that even have to do with people having kids?
Hello, genius. Hush your mouth. Now, from here, this is where, because of the way that things are today, there's a much broader view when it comes to people raising families and kids and adoption and everything else, right? But the idea of not attempting to try to preserve the nuclear family is like, it's frankly kind of silly, because what you want is two people, right? Once they know that they're ready for a relationship and they want to have children, right? That they make those responsible decisions along the way, instead of giving people like parachutes, right? Or giving them, money, right? To say, oh yeah, you can just break this thing up and then it's not going to matter at this point because now we'll take care of you. Or there's these other things he'll step in to be able to do that for you, right? Instead of learning the types of conflict resolution, they would have been able to keep the people together that made a decision at the beginning of all of it.
So let me explain
an issue with that.
Because I want to explain. So like,
we're gonna have this interaction, then we're gonna move over to Kevin. You can continue. Just want to make that clear.
All right, so I understand where CTV is coming from. The problem is we already had a world like that. It was in the early 40s, 50s, and 60s. And you know what? We had a huge amount of spousal rape and abuse because spouses were unable to leave their abusive husbands because it was so socially stigmatized and so challenging to pursue a divorce. We didn't see conflict resolution breeding from this, okay? We saw women who were in marriages that they didn't want to be in being abused and being raped by their husbands. So no, this idea that by providing a safety net, it's somehow going to cheapen the sanctity of marriage and lead to women just leaving their husbands willy-nilly It's not borne out at all, and it doesn't even make sense. In fact, although intuitively your solution might sound like it makes sense, it does not lead to positive outcomes. We have seen that historically, and it doesn't work. I also have something I want to say to Sprouticus, but it's a little off subject, so I'll stay on this subject. But Dylan, please let me say something to Sprouticus before we move on from this subject entirely.
Okay, well, since you were addressing me, then it's only right that I get to retort, right? So
Sure, yeah,
referencing a period of time that is 60, 70 years in the past as a justification for why those same types of principles, right, can't still be instilled today, considering that there's a lot more access to therapy, right? Being able to sit down and learn things like conflict resolution without having to be a part of a church or some organization like that.
We already see people doing that, right? People already go to therapy. Like marriage counseling, for example, is like
right. So
very common. I was encouraged to
that
do
you
that.
just referenced in the past is done kaput, right? Because we understand that now people are engaging a lot more in mental health than they were in the past.
First of all, that might be true, but that doesn't mean that if they had access to therapy that they would go there and suddenly work it out and the spousal rape would stop.
How do you want to achieve?
How do you achieve this? Don't get married, 5-head.
Well, like
Be right back.
that's what I'm asking. You're saying simply that couples just need to do this, but like, I don't think.
I'm saying that if people want to, if people want to slow down, like trying to grow up a little bit, right, and approach sex as a really adult thing, because there's a possibility of bringing a life into it, right, and not just being all willy-nilly, right, and just sticking it in anything that just moves around, right, unless you're being extremely, like 99.9 to 100%, like you're not going to get pregnant, then that's
okay. How do you achieve that?
Responsibility.
So how do you do that? Right? Do you want to give more people contraception? Are you in favor of expanding the Affordable Care Act, because that was providing women with a lot more contraception and decreasing abortion rates?
No, I want individuals to be more responsible in their life. You tell me how.
Got it. So you want the unrealistic.
That happen. It's not.
This is perfect. This is great. I'm really glad you said this, because now we know
for people and their bad decisions. That's what
you're
doing.
That's great, because now we know that all you have right now is a giant virtue signal, which is make better. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, because let me explain.
So if you
really I'm sorry I made bad decisions for my child. Jesus Christ.
Can I respond to this? Because no, I'm not at all. It's obvious that this is I'll explain to you why this is a giant virtue signal. Because we've already. All right, well then let me explain it to the audience and someone that might have the brain capacity to understand. I would like to hear it,
and you'll be able to respond to it, CTV. I promise. Then we move over to Kevin.
We've seen abstinence training repeatedly. It doesn't usually work. Your solution is a massive virtue signal. It gives you the ability to sit up on your high horse and say, hickety hee ho, make better decisions. Hiccup. When in reality, that does not lead.
Making funny noises. I
am going to start making fun of you, because what you said was very dumb.
You see how that works? And the fact that you're even here, right? And the fact that you can't even seem to form a sentence without it being.
You interrupted me. How am I supposed to talk?
Because you decided to start being condescending and disrespectful.
Because you're virtue signaling.
Do you think that you're going to garner whenever you start acting like
finish at least for
Thank you for letting me know the corporal punishment should have been administered.
I would like
advocating
for.
Wait, I didn't honestly, I think that it's so terrible to say that like women who divorce their husbands are making bad decisions. It's so bad faith.
1 second. My mic fucked up. Can nobody hear me? 1 second. Hello, 1 2. Okay, then there's no excuses. Okay, Hunter, can you please finish what you were trying to say?
I will make this very quick. The reason it's a virtue signal is because you're able to get up here and judge other people, tell them to make better decisions, and it sounds like you're not even in favor of actual policy solutions like expanding the Affordable Care Act, which Joe Biden is doing, and that provides more women with contraceptive access, which then reduces unplanned pregnancies and reduces abortion. That is a win-win for everyone in every scenario, but you don't
actually the
purview.
Wait, I would like to hear.
See, exactly. You're against the solution so that you can instead get up here and virtue signal for a non-attainable, unattainable solution.
Okay, stop. Okay, stop. This is what's gonna happen, and this is the only way it's gonna happen. I'm just gonna say something. Nobody else is gonna say something. The CTV is gonna say something. Then nobody else is gonna say something. Then we're moving on. Hunter, say something. Anything.
That was all I wanted to say.
Wonderful.
CTV's virtue signaling and peddling nonsense.
Okay, CTV, now you can respond.
Okay, great. Right? So back to reality, right? Educating people about making more responsible decisions is the only thing that you really can do if you want people to be able to be independent, free thinkers, able to handle any situation that comes with them in life, right? This idea that throwing federal dollars by some program is supposed to be the answer is someone that just frankly doesn't understand the Constitution nor what the purview of the federal government actually is. Now, if you want to advocate for something on your state level, then feel free to go do so, right? That's where you'd find the power for that sort of thing. But like Affordable Care Act, that's not the purview of the federal government. It's not. So responsibility is what you need to be trying to teach to people so that maybe we can avoid situations where kids are just stuck in orphanages and they don't actually have parents that can be there for them every day.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Kevin.
Well, I hadn't originally made that planned on making this point, but just to respond directly there, it is the purview of the federal government. The Supreme Court literally said that it comes under the tax-raising revenue of the federal government and therefore is perfectly constitutional. Anyway, the point I was going to make about the taxes, for instance, if you give tax incentives to one group over another, you are absolutely making the group who is not getting that tax benefit the payer for the group who are getting that tax benefit, because the federal government is still going to spend the same amount of money on the same projects and all the rest of it, or the state government if it's a state tax. So the people paying the taxes, the single parents, are funding your personal political decision to fund this other group. So you are absolutely it's a detriment to the single parent households over those with two or more, whatever. And in terms of the argument about what the nuclear family is, I think to bring it back to the point that Sprout was making, or Sprout made an age ago now, about a grandparent can be a parental figure. That's absolutely true. I think that's a fine example, which fundamentally undermines his own argument that the nuclear family structure, as he defines it, isn't necessary at all, and you can have a myriad of different concepts of how the nuclear or how a family structure can work that don't have to be a man and a woman and a picket fence in the suburbs in the 50s.
Whoa,
Also,
wait a second. So you're saying not a man and a woman, but you're suggesting that a father figure would be needed. So
no, can be needed, but it doesn't have to be. It could be two dads, two mums,
well,
three,
that's just
four,
false.
five.
That's
not
false.
a nuclear family.
It actually is completely correct, and also the
That's
study
just
that
false.
Spartacus tried to.
We could talk about fatherless homes.
Can I
if you'd
just
like to,
make
but
one
that's
more
just
point?
Wait. Okay, we're gonna have Kevin finish his point.
Yeah.
Then Sprout can respond.
Yeah.
I saw Hunter wanted to make some comments, and then we're gonna move over to Supreme because he's been raising his hand, and then we're probably gonna.
I just wanted to make one further point, which is directly responded to what CTV said about things from 60, 70 years ago and having times having changed and how that would alter the way in which this would work in the modern age. I think it's a very ironic argument for a conservative to make, considering they look back to 60 and 70 years ago and say, we need to get back to that, even though you're implicitly admitting that things are different now and the outcomes would be different.
So now you're straw manning me.
Yeah, of course I am, babe. Yeah.
So to go back to what he was saying, where you said that so he started off by saying fathers should be in the home, then went on to say fathers shouldn't be in the home, which is a very confusing statistic. But we can go back to this if you guys would like to. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. 85% of youth in prison have an absent father. We can continue moving if you'd like to. There's 90% of runaway children have an absent father.
Yeah.
Fatherless children are at greater risk of suffering physical, emotional, and sexual abuse.
So are you saying that's probably because of the necessity ultimately of the two-parent household, right?
Yeah, it's about the reason crime is linked to poverty. If you've got one parent, you've got
the two parents. It doesn't necessarily mean that like that masculine figure is necessary. Also,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay,
also,
no, it's talking about It's talking about fatherless homes, so homes that don't have a father. So yes,
right,
it would
which
be
or
argued
having
that
a second parent. You could just as
nowhere in this study does it mention a secondary parent that is not a father. It is referring to a father being in the home, and these statistics where fathers are not in the home.
Right, so it's about children raised by single mothers, oftentimes fare worse.
Children raised without a father. So
what does that mean? Wait. What's a mother without a father? A single mother, right?
Yeah, so it's single mothers.
It's not about the masculine thing, my dude.
I'm sorry, is a single
single
mother, is that a lesbian couple?
Can I clarify? Wait, can I just ask, do the studies account for lesbian couples as well?
Yes.
The gay couple, the gay studies that I was saying, yes, I
for those who can put them in chat.
And also, if I've been wanting to say this was from earlier.
Okay.
Sproticus, I looked up that study that you were using. I don't think, even though some of these conclusions you're making about the nuclear family, I actually kind of agree with you on. I really don't think a lot of what you are saying should be trusted, because after you did, I don't know if you're just dumb or if you were dishonest here by actually citing this study, but I just looked it up just for shits and giggles, and they were literally comparing children living with biological parents to single mothers. So the study in the abstract was saying, in comparison, living with the biological parents here was better. Nowhere was this study saying that biological parents are better than gay parents and comparing that in any way. For you to try to use this study to argue that biological parents are a necessity is so dishonest. All I had to do is read the fucking abstract, and instantly I knew that you were wrong.
What a fucking straw man.
Yeah, real quick. So what is a mother without a father? Fatherless, not a single mom, dumbass.
Thank you.
But isn't that also a single mom?
No.
So fatherless, you dumbass. You don't know how to use the fucking language.
Is a lesbian couple of a
Am I
father?
wrong, Chad? Help me out.
Is there a father in a lesbian couple?
It's a little confusing, Hunter. That's the extent of it. Like,
my wording's confusing.
It sounded like you were asking, what is a mother without that mother having a father in her home?
Oh, my bad. I meant, what is a
that's not what we're taking.
What is a child raised without a father, right?
Okay. So I'm gonna throw it over to Supreme, because this is getting off the rails a little bit, and we're probably gonna be wrapping it up soon. Supreme,
let's get to
vaccines. I wanted to ask BX Bullet more questions, because she is representing, you know what I mean? She is somebody who can relay the experience of single motherhood. But I'm just gonna make the statement that I don't think there's a single. You know what? I would predict there are 0 households in America that are single parent households that don't recognize that more help and more income in the house would be better.
Somebody mentioned me.
I did. I wanted to ask you some questions. Now, just because you can relay your experience, because you've been, you've been adamant about, defending the life that you're currently living, and I think that's fine. But I just want to ask, like, do you believe it's the case that were you able to find, a mate that where you were able to, establish a really healthy relationship or whatever, and was able to bring another income in the house, that this would be like better for your kids?
Well, I mean, I guess it just depends. Like, I mean, if I were to just go out and be like, fuck, I need more money, dude, I should just go fucking get on Tinder and marry the first dude who's got money. Well, that probably wouldn't be best for her.
I'm not suggesting that, right?
No, but that's what this is leading to, though. That was my whole point the entire time, is like,
I agree. And there are obstacles to you not being able to achieve this. You're already juggling work and raising a family. So like dating is another thing on your plate.
It's really fucking hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. and then you never know how it's going to end up. Sometimes you can be with somebody for 3 months, and then, like their bad tendencies come out that you couldn't have seen coming. It's difficult.
Well,
right?
honestly, it's like a vicious cycle for single parents, right? Because like for me, like I don't want to bring a guy around my daughter until I know that like, things are getting serious. So that makes it even harder. Yeah, it's just difficult. I'm fine being single. I have no issue at all.
So here's what I wanted
to be fair, I do want to clarify. Her dad is still in the picture. Her dad still does have time with her. We just do not live in a nuclear setting. That's why I said we have more of a communal extended family situation where she sees her grandparents on both sides a whole lot, and she sees her dad a lot. I mean, it's not that bad. Like, there's other things that you guys are generalizing non-nuclear family to just be like a poor single mom struggling to get by, but there's all kinds of non-nuclear families besides just that stereotype.
I think we're all having lexical debates about the definition of nuclear family, and we're not communicating what our interpretation of that term means, but we're all arguing different facets of it that we're all taking for granted and not telling each other. But I want to refocus this conversation. We talked earlier about encouraging the nuclear family. Now, whether it's socially or financially or through tax incentives or what have you, I think it would be better to, I guess I want to gauge everyone and see if we can get some broad agreement that people who are single parents are not single parents because they think it's the optimal situation, but it's because it's the best situation for the specifics and the details of the life that they have found themselves in. And that I think it ought to be better for the sake of the children that support be given to, to households with less income and less familial support for the sake of the kids. And I understand that there are like tradcon arguments that this now incentivizes this lifestyle and that some parents will choose to, I don't know, like kick the other parent out of the house or something. I've seen no demonstration of this. And like, I don't think that there's like a threat of this happening. Does anybody here think that there's a threat of this happening? If we were to create, like monetary support policies to help single parents.
I mean, they're already out there. Welfare, Medicaid.
Yeah,
They are
so
already
that's what
out
we're
there.
talking about. Okay, well, do you support them, whether they're out there or not? Is that
Yeah,
what you
I support it to be targeted to those who are truly struggling, and obviously there are a lot of issues with the systems. Obviously, the systems could be improved, and there needs to be more I guess effort to punish the bad actors out there. But yeah, I don't disagree that there should be aid for people who are generally in need, like genuinely in need, not generally.
Right. So creating a tax incentive for a nuclear family or something like that, or like some sort of incentives program for establishing or maintaining a nuclear program.
See where you're getting, and I like it.
Like,
it's just going to create more people to try to take advantage of the system, but just in another way. Because as long as there's money on the table, people are going to find a way to get there. And it's not necessarily in the kid's best interest. Bad parents are going to be bad parents. Bad parents do not act in the kid's best interest. Whether they're married, whether they're on welfare, it doesn't matter. So there's bad parents and good parents. That's it.
We're also discussing the exception to the rule, not necessarily the rule, right? I mean, I just want to make sure that's clear. We're discussing the exception to the rule, not necessarily the rule at this point in time.
Okay. The point is such a program to monetarily incentivize people to stay together in the event that they otherwise would not have stayed together, right? That's why you would create this program, to keep people in a relationship that they otherwise would not have stayed in. And that's what I'm worried about, right?
There's a reason why people try to get out of relationships, is all I'm saying.
Right. Is this what we want to create? Do we want to monetarily incentivize families to stay together that maybe shouldn't be together for good reason?
You guys are just going to call it anecdotal if I try to give my perspective, so...
I mean, here's the thing. So there's already tax incentives for families that already exists. I'm not saying up those, but what I'm saying is to not push people away from a nuclear family, to not decrease what people think about nuclear families. And I posted another study in the chat, in the Discord chat. It's an NIH.gov study. In the conclusions, we find strong evidence that father absence negatively affects children's social and emotional development, particularly by increasing externalizing behavior. These effects may be more pronounced if father absence occurs during early childhood than during middle childhood, and they may be more pronounced for boys than for girls. There is weaker evidence and effect of father absence on children's cognitive.
Who's trying to push people away from the nuclear family?
Nobody is advocating to get fathers out of
there
the
are
house.
There are people who are advocating for the disruption of the nuclear family. And not only did I see this by BLM, I saw this throughout I saw it throughout my college career. The disruption of the nuclear family.
About what that means.
We could talk. No,
we already debunked that.
We could talk about the definition. We could talk about the definition of disruption.
Wait. Dylan, can we go to vaccines?
Can we? We are going to be doing that topic next, but we gotta have outro still. And I just want very quickly, okay, Sprout. We can talk about this I'll put a timer on for 3 minutes, literally no more. Then we're moving on to the next topic because we're running out of this topic.
I'm gonna go pee while you do that.
Okay. So you talk about this disruption thing because other people seem to be challenging that. Then other people can talk about what that means.
Okay, the word disrupt means interrupt an event, activity, or process by causing a disturbance or problem. So, in the way that they would disrupt a nuclear family means they would interrupt by causing a disturbance or problem to the nuclear family. That is what the sentence means. That is, maybe they should have used their words wiser. That is what BLM. I'm sorry.
Is that what they say they mean with the term disrupt?
BLM said they were aiming to disrupt the nuclear family. This is undeniable. I already read the quote, and
you read
Hunter.
A quote, but what is their explanation of what
that was? What they said.
That is what they said, but what is their explanation of what it means?
Are you done, or can I talk?
Can you answer my question?
I mean, I'm just curious. Are you done?
I'm not here to defend BLM, but I hear you just keep saying.
Here's the thing. So BLM did suggest the disruption of nuclear family.
What is the point here?
Okay, so. Okay.
I mean, I couldn't even finish. I mean, I see this being a consistent issue where I'm not able to finish, and Dylan steps in and ends all conversation.
Okay,
you're afraid to answer my question.
I'm not afraid to answer your question.
You are. You're boo-hooing.
No, I've already read it. I've already read the statement.
You're running away. You keep reading the statement. You won't read an explanation.
I mean, I wasn't even able to finish my argument, but...
Are you going to cry?
No, I'm not going to cry.
Well, then finish the explanation. Then we're moving on to the next topic because this is just dragging out.
So BLM said we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting others extended families and villages that collectively care for each other, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. So that was
You disagree
BLM's
with any of
statement. The word disrupt means to
Okay.
interrupt by causing a disturbance or
You
problem.
just read
Yes,
their
I
explanation.
disagree. So
What in their
yes, I
explanation do you
disagree.
disagree
I disagree with causing a problem to disrupt the nuclear family. That's what was being argued for, and that's what they were saying. To move on, we find again the father absence negatively affects children's
What
social and
explanation did you disagree with?
You know what? We'll just end this. We'll go to closing statements because
You're so afraid to address
I'm
this.
not afraid to address it. I just told you what BLM said.
Okay, so what in their explanation do you disagree with?
Disrupting the nuclear family. I don't know how much more clear I could make it.
How you are interpreting that, but when you read their explanation, I'm asking
Oh
you
my gosh.
what you disagree with.
Because that is taking the father or the mother out of the picture, considering
Listen,
that
you
I'm talking
weasel.
about the nuclear
Just answer the
family and they're
question.
saying
Holy shit.
I am
Pop
answering
into
the
a hole.
fucking question. Are you done?
You're not
You
answering
done
the
having a
question.
little
You just
hissy
said,
fit?
this is how I
You
interpret
done
this
having a hissy fit,
family.
Supreme?
Oh my God.
Okay, the time.
Did I just miss a
hissy fit, or
the
what
time
was
is
going on?
the time of this is up. Lovely. That was a wonderful end to that. We're gonna go to the ending statement. So everybody's gonna have a short period where they can talk about anything during this topic and give their closing statements on the topic. I'm gonna start with BX Bullet in the top left-hand corner. I'm gonna be right back, and I'm gonna use the bathroom. CTV's right after for if I don't come back fast enough.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like you guys kind of like misinterpreted what I was saying, because what I was saying is that, and I said this in the intro very explicitly, is that force fitting people into a nuclear family, I don't think is the way to go. I think it's better to try to adapt as times change rather than forcing something from, the past to stay in play. I don't think that you can't deny that the data suggests that, two-parent nuclear family households have better outcomes for kids. So why can't we just look at how things are changing and how we can provide better outcomes for kids rather than trying to, force fit this specific mold that's really not honestly prevalent anymore. I think that all kids, all family types can work for kids, and we just need to find the new ways to adapt along with society. So really all I was saying was that I don't like trying to force fit things and like keeping things nuclear family based. I think that we can explore some different options and see what's on the table rather than fixating on this one, I guess, just idealized version of life when there's so many different types of life out there. That's all I was saying. So that's it.
CTV.
You're next, buddy.
It's all you, CTV.
Oh, well, I think we covered a lot of the points that need to be covered tonight. We definitely got into some nuances of situations rather than trying to address things from a broad standpoint, with everyone involved. That said, promoting the nuclear family, falls in line with a principle called individual responsibility. If you're going to engage in an act and then bring something to fruition, you're responsible, right? So this is where the conversation after conception and birth all comes down to the people that helped create the life. If they're still in the life of the child, then they should learn things like conflict resolution. And if they need to go to therapy, right? Become a much more healthy person. That way you can be a good role model for the life that you have brought into this world. That's it.
Okay. Now we're gonna move it on to Hunter.
All right, sure. So, yeah, the nuclear family definitely has its benefits. Doesn't mean that it's the ideal situation for everybody. But I think that the data and the benefits of the nuclear family is undeniable. This, again, extends to both straight parents and gay parents. Nobody was able to really accurately refute that in this discussion. I also enjoyed the overall conversation. I enjoyed the CTV virtue signal, of course, talking about how we just need to take responsibility when at the end of the day, it is not the government's job to mandate personal responsibility or weigh in on personal responsibility. That's something that's fixed at a family level. What the government can do is provide policy that provides more contraceptive access, which leads to a decrease in unplanned pregnancies, and that would be a win-win for everybody. So, yeah, that's my closing statements, I guess. Should we preserve the nuclear family? I think the nuclear family is a good thing, but it should not be preserved at the expense of potential other beneficial ways to raise children as well, like communal raising.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
Okay, I'll start with a quote. Of all rocks upon which we build our lives, we are reminded today that family is the most important. We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely in poverty to live in poverty and commit crime. They are more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home or become teenage parents themselves, and the foundations of our community are weaker because of it. Great quote. Probably a couple people on here disagree with it. That's from your boy Obama. Father's Day speech, June 15th, 2008. So, yes, I think the nuclear family should be preserved. I think that it should not be discouraged to be a nuclear family, that the children benefit by having both the mother and the father present in their lives and being able to be there to parent their child. I think this benefits them through school. This benefits them through other activities that they could be doing. This also takes down childhood crime. This would take down a lot of other issues if the father and the mother are both present in the lives. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, which have been stated a lot today, but I'm talking mainly about the rule.
Okay, next is going to be IRI.
So, to speak to CTV's point about we need to teach responsibility, I think if you push on that, nobody's going to ever have kids. There's never a good time to have a baby. So, nobody's ever going to have kids. Our birth rates will plummet. And it just seems like it would hurt us more than help us, if anything. You teach everybody responsibility, and nobody's ever going to have kids. But I don't believe in this nuclear family. I'm with BX Bullet. Like, well, what value is there of having the biological father there if he's not helping out? I'm not saying that's her situation, but just in general, like if the parents aren't getting along, why can't that be substituted with someone else? Maybe friends, and money allows you to buy services and therapy and take your kids to go play baseball, and maybe the coach on the team is a wonderful adult role model in their life. So I think the nuclear family is just totally pointless. It's about having people in your life that are role models, having the money to be able to provide for your children however you see fit. And I don't see any value at all at having the biological mother and father together raising the kid. What, does the dad's voice change something in the kid's development because he hears a bedtime story from his dad and not somebody else? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I think it's ridiculous. And it just comes down to money and making sure people are whole and can provide for their children. That's it.
I was muted. Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Kevin Logan.
Yes, I think I have to sort of echo what Bullet said in the opening. Sort of fuck the nuclear family, really. Like I'm not saying it's pointless, but like the idea that we need to preserve it or encourage it is like a conservative virtue signal, which I think has been shown rather conclusively by Sproticus and the now disappeared CTV with their virtue signaling about BLM, and he started talking about pride at one point, which was really bizarre. This is all conservative Christian drivel, frankly. Whatever structure of family, whether it be a single parent, 2 parents, 3 parents, 4, 5, whatever structure of extended support one can have for the life of children or an individual child is what works, and that can only be seen in the cookie can only be tasted in the eating, so to speak. That you need to actually learn and develop that as it goes along, and trying to force it's quite ironic that conservatives who are all about small government want to use taxpayer money to force people into a certain box. Seems particularly hypocritical, but there we go.
Okay. Now we're going to throw over Supreme.
Oh man, this conversation was kind of a mess. Everybody has all these different interpretations of what the nuclear family means, of what it means to disrupt it, and fucking what the alternatives are, and like a lot of the stuff wasn't really horribly well, I don't know, communicated. Simply pointing to the fact, I want to address what Hunter said, like simply saying, hey, I mean, the statistics show growing up with a nuclear family is beneficial for kids. Like that statement in and of itself is not very useful. It's like saying growing up in a wealthy home is just beneficial for the kids. It doesn't really supply any prescriptions. It doesn't supply any solutions. In general, I'm going to stick with what I said at the beginning. In general, I trust the decisions that parents make for themselves. I trust that they are making these decisions on the behalf of their children, in the best interest of their children. I'm just concerned that there are people that have to choose to dissolve their relationships. I don't think this is an easy choice to make. I don't think this is a choice that they make for any other reason than because they make this decision. They make the trade-off to lose support in the household because it's better to not have their children like witnessing a toxic relation. And I think that there needs to be financial a financial program to help people in those situations if the child doesn't have enough financial support. And yes, contraceptions, I think support for programs that supply contraceptions is only going to likely result in couples having children that plan to have them and want to have them, which is going to result in more healthy, I think, familial structures as well. And that's it.
Okay, now we're going to throw over to Recliner Man.
Yeah, so T-Jump, youtube.com/T-Jump, just in case. Let's clear that up. So yeah, I think that I agree with pretty much everything Hunter said. Like there is a significant amount of evidence that nuclear families do better than single parent families. It's a fact. And so it's better for us as a country to promote that and encourage people to go towards that kind of relationship, because if it creates better families and better kids overall, then it will benefit the entire country, which is why we would spend tax dollars on it. And what Kevin said, that this somehow damages anybody who has to give their taxes to it, just doesn't make any sense, because the whole point of taxes is to fund programs that benefit the entire country. So if promoting this kind of a relationship benefits everybody, then that's kind of the point of taxes. As long as we're not increasing your taxes, it doesn't actually contradict or damage single parent homes. So because we know it works, because we know it's better, it is a good idea for the government to promote it and to incentivize it to benefit everybody in the country. And so, yeah, that's why we should support and encourage nuclear families.
Wonderful. Now we're going to go into the next topic. By the way, for everybody at home, oh, kitty. Chicken. Okay. For the next topic, I do want to bring up the fact that... Wait, no, not for the next topic. Next week, on Monday, I'm going to be watching the movie Buckbreaking by Tariq Nasheed with Your Movie Sucks, also known as Adam Ruins Everything. It should be a fun stream. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's for everybody in my community. We had to reorganize that since yesterday did not work. It's going to be a blast. Now, for the next topic, it's going to be companies mandating vaccinations. A lot of companies are now talking about mandating that all of their workers get vaccinated to go there. Now, you can make it on a debate about should or should not that be legal, but also, is that something they should do outside of the just pure legality of it? Is it something that a company should do? Should it make its workers get vaccinated? Should it mandate that? And if somebody doesn't get vaccinated, should they be fired? I'm going to start in the bottom right-hand corner with, now this is just my name for you forever, I'm sorry, Recliner Man. He is muted.
Muted.
Unmute. All right, I'm unmuted. Yeah. There's a Recliner Man. I just didn't recognize it. It's confusing. But yeah, so vaccinate. I think that obviously they're private companies, so they can do what they want because they own their own company, and so I'm supportive of their right to manage it however they would like. But should they morally do it? I think it depends on the kind of company. Like if it's a workforce that engages in close interactions with other people, then yeah, it's totally fine for them to mandate vaccinations. Like if you're a restaurant worker and you're going to be working around elderly people who could potentially catch it and die, then forcing people to take the vaccination makes a lot of sense. If you're working from home and you don't interact with anybody, having someone force you to take the vaccine is completely ridiculous. It makes no sense at all. So I think that the ability or to force people to take the vaccine is contingent on the type of work the company is doing and the position the person is in. And it's only justified if there is a clear and present danger presented if the person doesn't take the vaccine. In every other case, then the company is morally reprehensible for forcing people to take the vaccine for no apparent reason.
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Supreme.
Oh man, this is a nebulous topic, honestly, and there's actually a pretty good case example near where I live. In Huntington Beach, there's an Italian restaurant. The guy forces his employees to not get vaccinated and to not wear masks, and he has a strict policy of no masks allowed in his establishment. It's as hyperbolic and as extreme as you can imagine. He advertises this on a billboard outside his business. I'm fairly certain. This, to me, is like the extreme example that we should absolutely forbid, I think, because, he has employees that need employment. They're seeking gainful employment. They get it at this establishment. It's not super easy to just move jobs or whatever. And their employer is like expressly forbidding them from getting a vaccine or taking precautions to, catch or spread coronavirus. Now, obviously, like if this were a one-person business, if this was operated by a single person, the owner of the business, I would have no problems with them. I'm not sure if I wouldn't have any problems with them advertising this outright, saying, listen, this is a fucking COVID-friendly zone. I don't give a fuck about getting or spreading it, and advertising that. In fact, I think it's even a moral good to advertise that outwardly, if that's the decision. But otherwise, I guess to address the actual topic, in terms of whether or not business owners ought to mandate that their employees get vaccinated, as long as there's access to it, I can't see there being any real downside to this other than, just so long as there's some space created for, I don't know if there's if there's some medical complications to getting the COVID vaccines. I haven't looked into this. If somebody can actually demonstrate that through their GP, it's probably going to be a good thing. I would just say, so long as they are not mandating this, as long as that's advertised and that customers know that this place of business is not doing everything it can to mitigate the spread of infection. That's my contribution, I guess.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Kevin.
This seems like a pretty clear-cut yes, they should A, be able to, and B, should have to, because this is a pandemic which is killing millions of people, and that spreading these things publicly is demonstrably bad. Therefore, there should be a mandate on people to, if they want to engage in civic society, as with any other case, you can't go around stabbing people to death. Why should you be able to go around coughing people to death? If you know there is a thing like a vaccine or wearing a mask, which can reduce the likelihood of your fellow citizen dying, it's ridiculously selfish for you to not engage in those very simple activities. Without going too joker about it, we live in a society. How about you fucking act like it?
Wonderful. Now we're going to throw it over to Hunter Avalone.
Oh shit, that was a twist I didn't see happening. All right. Yeah, so I have something written out for this one too. It's perfectly fine for private businesses to mandate employees and customers to be vaccinated. Government organizations such as the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission have long made this clear. I'm reading a quote here from an attorney. This is on CNBC. The EEOC's guidance that came out in December 2020 made it clear and paved the way to say that employers can mandate vaccines and that this isn't considered a medical examination, which is prohibited by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Finally, I'm going to take this up a notch. I think that the vaccine should be mandated on a state level. I'm sick of anti-vaxxers. Most of them don't have any good arguments unless you literally have a medical condition that will seriously hurt you if you take the vaccine. I have yet to hear a single good reason as to why someone won't just take the fucking vaccine. So I think it should be mandated on a state level. There's over 100 years of court precedent, which has ruled time and time again that states have a constitutional right to mandate vaccines. The 10th Amendment gives states this right, and Supreme Court decisions have ruled that states have a right to mandate vaccines by using their police powers as well. Finally, I don't like wearing masks. I certainly don't want to see another economic crash, and I don't want to see more small businesses being harmed. A vaccine mandate would lend to fix these problems, just as businesses mandating vaccines for employees and customers already has.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
So my general stance on this: companies, as of right now, should not force their employees to take this vaccine. And I say this because right now it's experimental medicine. It's not been fully approved by the FDA. Any case that Hunter brings up, if it's been since the FDA was created, it's been an FDA approved. It's an FDA approved medicine. This has only been given an emergency authorization. It has not been fully approved. So right now this is experimental medicine. And I don't think that companies should force their employees to take experimental medicine in order to be able to have a job.
Okay, gonna throw it now over to IRI.
Yeah, I think we have to make things as difficult as possible for the unvaccinated. That's the only way we can get them to comply and to get our economy back, as Hunter said. And I'm sick of my white boy summer being ruined here by all these people. So whatever it takes, if businesses have to mandate that customers and employees get vaccinated, that's looking out for all of us, because that's looking out for our whole economy. I don't want to shut down again. So that's the only way I see out of it. And as far as that nonsense about emergency use authorization isn't the same as full authorization, look, Google that, please, everybody. You'll see that it's nonsense. The clinical trials were done. The same data's done. It's just an amount of time. And most side effects happen, most bad things happen with a vaccine within the first month. Heck, within the first 15 minutes. That's why they make you sit there after you get it. So it's total nonsense that the emergency use authorization isn't as good as full approval. It's just waiting a little more time, and we know historically that most bad things happen within that first month. So Sprouticus, please do some research. I hit you about this already. I'm getting tired of it, man.
We're throwing it over to CTV.
Well, if anybody's been paying attention to CTV's Twitter feed over the summer, my summer has not been ruined at all down here in sunny Florida, right? We encourage the wearing of Speedos, right? And I don't know what to tell you, right? Get the fuck out of California, I guess. So for everyone else, I don't care how hard you cry, right? What matters is that no matter how hard you try, you're not going to put me in chains, right? I'm not your slave. And I think that every American can definitely identify with that particular framing of what we're talking about here. Because for a corporation, i.e. the master, right, to then say, well, if you want to work here, since we already entered into a free negotiation, right, and now I'm going to tell you that your body belongs to me, and if you want to be here, you have to get this vaccine that is not approved by your government, right? It's not been through the FDA checks, and it's not all the way ready to be there. Now, it's a good thing to, want to advocate for people to go ahead and do a thing, but to mandate it, right, at the point of a gun? No, sir.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to BX.
Okay, so I'll start by saying that I am fundamentally opposed to forced vaccination by the government or overly strict mandates that essentially would force somebody to, submit to vaccination by threatening their livelihood. The reason I reject that is on the basis of bioethics and personal autonomy. I believe that everybody should always have the right to choose what goes into their bodies. So that's where I kind of stand overall. Now, when it comes to private businesses, this issue, it gets a lot more complex. So I'm generally in favor of private companies having rights to do whatever they want, but we do have equal opportunity laws in the workplace to prevent discrimination. So they can't do, whatever they want. There's a couple of points here and I want to try to make them all really fast. But first, I want to acknowledge I do believe that there are certain industries like healthcare, for example, that they should mandate vaccines. And to be honest, if you're a nurse going to nursing school, you should have just seen that coming, because there are cases where you work somewhere super risky and your workplace in that case can justify that everybody needs to get vaccinated. So I was once offered a job in a microbiology lab where I was going to have to get tested for or vaccinated for rabies, and I turned it down. I was like, oh, there was a lot of reasons I turned that job down, but OSHA also plays a role in that too. So I'll just, as a side note, it can get really complex when you get into that. But we do have court decisions that are, in favor of these healthcare facilities. So I expect the courts to uphold that hospitals have the right to do that. As for companies not in those areas, I think that the equal opportunity laws definitely make sure a company can't discriminate against people for, religious or medical reasons unless they can prove that that's like a serious threat to the business. So employers have to acknowledge that these mandates are risky, not just because of potential legal issues, but also what happens if like half of your workforce says fuck you and quits, right? Is that a risk that most businesses can take? I really don't think that most companies are going to do vaccines for that reason, mandates, because not to mention any company with decent leadership will recognize that like negative motivators don't work as well as positive motivators, right? Employees respond better to incentives than they do to punitive measures. So if you're just forcing everybody to get vaccines or get fired, you're going to end up with a lot of resentment. Your employee satisfaction is going to decrease. Your productivity is going to decrease, and people are going to quit. So I think the businesses are definitely going to see that, and we're going to see how that pans out later. As for the FDA approval thing, you guys are honestly saying some things that are incorrect. So it is an emergency use authorization is not the same thing as approval. There are absolutely plenty of cases where side effects have popped up years down the road. In fact, I can link you guys articles that, from 2017, where a study showed that almost a third of FDA approved new drugs had unexpected side effects, serious ones over the long term. So it is just not true that most of it happens in 15 minutes. That's just not true at all. I don't like misinformation on either side. I'm not anti-vax. I'm personally, I'm kind of on the edge. I would rather not take something until it's been fully evaluated, and I understand that's not stupid at all. And if you guys would like me to expand on that, I would love to, later on.
Okay. Everybody is on their introductions. Obviously, this topic is a little bit more divisive than usual. So I'm just going to ask everybody to do their best to keep a little bit of law and order in here. I will get involved if need be. The discussion is open.
IRI, you should be proud of me. I have done my research. All right, so we're going to look at what the FDA says about emergency use authorizations, since they're the ones that give them out. And this is from the FDA link that I posted in Discord. If Dylan wants to post that out the chat, Dylan, post that out the chat now. An emergency use authorization is a mechanism to facilitate the availability and use of medical countermeasures, including vaccines, during public health emergencies, such as the current COVID-19 pandemic. Under an EUA, which is an emergency use authorization, FDA may allow the use of unapproved medical products or unapproved uses of approved medical products in an emergency to diagnose, treat, or prevent serious or life-threatening diseases or conditions when certain statutory criteria have been met, including that there are no adequate, approved, or available alternatives. Taking into consideration input from the FDA, manufacturers decide whether and when to submit a UEA request to the FDA. So yes, a EUA is much different than a fully approved. Even the FDA makes this differential.
What does fully approved mean?
I can expand on this if you'd like me to.
Fully
I know that you
means
guys
that the FDA is.
probably.
Wait, there's three
what
people
does that
talking
entail?
at the same time.
I can definitely expand on this if you want.
Give me a moment.
I mean,
I will allow BX to expand on it in a moment, but that was directed towards IRI, so I want to allow. I think he gets priority in responding, but I'll write you down on the list.
Well, this is what Sprouticus does all the time. He reads the first paragraph in a source, and he doesn't scroll down. If you scroll down 2 clicks on that page, it says, "Are the COVID-19 vaccines rigorously tested?" Yes. So you tell us, Sprouticus, what is the difference between emergency use authorization and full approval?
Actually, I did scroll down. I did see that. I'm not saying emergency use authorization isn't rigorously tested to make sure that it can be used in emergency use authorization. At the same time, it hasn't gone through the trials that approved medicines had.
That's not true.
At this point, it is the same.
That's a lie.
It is.
No,
These
additional
trials are different. These
Also,
trials are different because they're longer and they take more information.
That's not. Approving it is a different.
Wait.
Doesn't know anything.
There's 3 people talking at the same time, so this is how I'm going to do it. It's going to be.
Let the woman talk.
You'll get your time. I'm going to give it to Sprout.
That was bad.
Right? Then we're going to go towards BX. Then I'm going to have Hunter and IRI respond before apparently Kevin. Okay. I'm going to write it down in that order. So Sprout, continue. Give you about 30 more seconds to expand. Then we're going to move to BX to expand upon that since she wants to all say that. Then I'll allow Hunter and IRI back to back to go as well.
So these are longer scaled experiments in which the FDA tests this stuff. It is. I mean, IRA, you can shake your head as much as you want. They're longer scaled for approval. Otherwise, they would have just automatically approved it, and there would be no use for the EUA. And if you scroll down like all the way to the bottom, because I did read this, how will vaccine recipients be informed benefits and risks of any vaccine that receives a EUA? This is FDA talking about how there can be risks for a vaccine that receives an EUA. The FDA must ensure the recipients of the vaccine under an EUA are informed to the extent practicable given the applicable circumstances that FDA has authorized the emergency use of the vaccine, of the known and potential benefits and risks, the extent to which such benefits and risks are unknown, that they have the option to accept or refuse the vaccine, and of any available alternatives to the product. Typically, this information is communicated in a patient fact sheet. The FDA posts these fact sheets on our website. So yes, there can still be risks that come out past this. Otherwise, the FDA would automatically approve this, and that's obviously not the way it goes. This COVID-19 got a vaccine. This COVID-19 vaccine got a emergency use authorization because it didn't meet the requirements for full approval.
Okay, next is going to be BX. Then we're going to go to Hunter, then IRI.
I think I can clarify all this. So the EUA is different from the BLU, which is the full FDA approval, in that they have not required robust, well-controlled clinical trials. And I know you don't want to believe me, but I can link you to I've actually read the FDA's guidance for industry on this. So while they have, so it's a balancing act, right? Right now, there's an emergency. There needs to be a vaccine. I agree with that. Right. But the way this works is that the FDA says, we can't wait for all this to come out. We need to start getting vaccinations out. Let's do a comprehensive examination of the risks versus the benefits and make a decision. Do the risk outweigh the benefits or the other way around? And if the benefits outweigh the risk, let's go ahead and authorize it for emergency use. They are not finished tracking all of the data from side effects. That's what they're waiting for full approval. They are still waiting for that. So to say that it's an experimental medicine, you're a science experiment, that's not correct. That's not correct. Because they've already taken a lot of measures to make sure that the benefits outweigh the risks. But is it a fully approved drug? No, it is not. Has it been vigorously safety tested via robust, well-controlled trials? No, it is not. And I can prove this to you, if you guys are interested. But I also would like to point out that I personally think the vaccines are probably safe. But the hesitancy is real, and it's well thought out. The hesitancy is well thought out. It's a risk benefit, for everybody. Everybody's got to consider their own personal situation, and it's not just a bunch of dumb Trump QAnon supporters or whatever that you guys think that are saying no.
For why? Could I hear one good argument for why somebody wouldn't want to get vaccinated, other than it's an experimental drug or something?
Well, I personally have, so it's anecdotal, but, for me, my doctors have advised against it for now because of, certain health situations that I have that aren't contraindications.
That's completely valid. Yeah,
but there are a lot of people who fall in that camp, and a lot of us are feeling discriminated against because people are pointing fingers and telling us, get vaccinated. What's wrong with you? You're so fucking selfish. Get vaccinated. And it's like, listen, we've all made our personal health choices, right? Now, if somebody looked at the FDA data and said, you know what? I think I'm going to wait because there's some side effects here and we're not really sure what the long-term effects of those can be. I can give IRI a good example. The RSV vaccine, which was studied on infants, which was found to have something called ERD later on, which is basically when you give somebody a vaccine during subsequent exposures to the virus, they can end up with a severe respiratory disease from that. That's something that a lot of vaccines actually have. So there are things that can happen from vaccines.
Sure, and you're right that there are potential risks there, but there's a couple things.
I was addressing IRI's comment that everything happens after 15 minutes. That's really not true. And people who understand things about the drug FDA approval process, I do. I spent 7 years in drug development under the guidance of the FDA. So I actually do kind of have a bit of professional experience here. The FDA, when they do their final approval, they visit the facilities. They audit them. They look in detail at all of the data, all of the numbers. They pour through it, and they can revoke at any time. It is possible that 2-3 months down the road, they could say, ooh, yikes, let's revoke Pfizer. It's absolutely possible. It is.
I doubt it. So actually, the FDA
you can't say that you can doubt it because you have no idea what you're talking about, with all due respect.
Okay, so now Hunter and
IRI. It can
IRI.
absolutely happen.
Hunter and IRI are going to speak uninterrupted. Hunter.
One of the vaccines, I'm not sure which one, is being expedited to be developed and fully approved by the FDA by September. Okay.
Yes,
So
that's the Moderna
I said-
or Pfizer.
sure.
interrupting.
So there you go. It sounds like it's approaching full approval very soon. Of course, there are some valid reasons not to get the vaccine. Yeah, if you have a medical issue, then you don't want to get the vaccine, fine. But other than that, it really is just assessing the risks and assessing the benefits. The benefits we have right now are robust, well-conducted studies that have been significantly showing that the vaccine is effective against COVID. We've seen now that the majority of hospitalizations are people who have not been
Where
vaccinated.
are you pulling that information that there's been robust, well-controlled trials? Just out of
I can
curiosity,
send
because
you
that's not
Are
required
the
by the
COVID-19
EAU.
vaccines
That's all I was saying.
rigorously are the COVID-19 vaccines rigorously tested according to the FDA.gov?
Uh-huh.
Yes, clinical trials are evaluating intestinal COVID-19 vaccines in tens of thousands of study participants to generate the scientific data and other information needed by the FDA to determine safety and effectiveness. These
Okay,
clinical
what
trials
I
are
said was
being
robust, well-controlled trials, which are
These
not
clinical
required
trials
by
are
the
being-
EAU.
Okay, these
I'm
clinical
just
trials are being
clarify.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I was saying.
These clinical trials are being conducted according to the rigorous standards set forth by the FDA. So finally, when you say things like, well, look at this vaccine, that had a problem, look at this, that had a side effect, what you're doing there is you're ignoring the swath of data, which we have that shows the majority of people that take this vaccine are fine and end up either not getting COVID, or if they do, they have significantly less symptoms and don't die from it.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I'm not ignoring that at all. But I'm simply saying that there are absolutely deadly adverse events that can occur with anything you put in your body. So it's a misnomer to say, it's fine, take the vaccine, shut the fuck up, don't even ask your doctor,
you
just do
just
it.
defeated your own point. That's a risk you take with any medication ever.
Right.
This is
and
not exclusive to the COVID-19 vaccine.
I didn't oppose my own point. My point was that people should have the choice to put whatever they want in their body, and they shouldn't be forced to put anything in their body. I've never been forced to take anything else in my life.
Sure, and they do have a choice. They can just not work at their job.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
then-
So let's
then,
just put
like,
them in
why
fucking
is-
camps and have them fight each other in districts while we're
No,
at
that's
it.
a huge straw man and massive
Yeah.
slippery slope. I'm not saying
I
put
mean,
anybody in
we're
camps
saying
here.
don't let them work. Did
No,
you
I'm
know that
saying
the
if- I'm
majority
saying
of
if-
people who are hesitant on
Hey.
vaccines are minorities?
So what? They're dumb too then for that. I don't give a fuck. If someone's not
You
getting
know
a
why
vaccine,
they
then they're
distrust
dumb.
the government?
Yes.
It's because for decades, for a long time, like centuries, the government has treated them as fucking lab rats. They have an inherent
I
distrust of
understand
the
that
government.
they have some valid reasons to distrust the government, but they don't have valid reasons to distrust this specific vaccine. Because
I
again,
have
I would
reasons to distrust
Yes, they
it
do,
as a
because
drug
Okay.
developer who's
Okay,
worked with the
so-
FDA.
I want to make sure that we get over
But
the
okay.
IRI.
you're
so we're gonna
you're
have Hunter.
appealing to conspiracy right now.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Just flat out, yeah, you are.
I'm appealing to like actual
Okay,
industry
so-
knowledge, but okay.
No, what you are is you're now suggesting because one pharmaceutical person worked with the FDA or whatever that's somehow implying something more nefarious.
No,
there, are you
I'm
not?
implying that you don't understand how EAU works, which you proved during your
That's
opening
not what you
statement.
just implied. You said that why is this pharmaceutical guy the CEO of FDA or something or another? You were saying
I
that
didn't
these two
say
people-
that. I did not say that. You're putting words in my mouth. That did not come from
Guys,
my mouth.
Dylan, can you help me out?
I
Do you
didn't
remember
hear
what-
that.
Well,
Do you remember what you
Not
said?
either.
I know
All
what
right, well-
I said. I didn't say that.
What
but
you
okay.
were saying that somebody was working from the FDA.
Look,
with.
Hunter,
No,
you're
I
a
didn't.
dumbass. We
Okay.
get it.
I heard nothing of the like.
Okay, we're moving over to IRI now.
All right, I could have been wrong. Yeah.
IRI is next.
Chat, correct me.
I just want to say, BX Bullet, I didn't mean to say that everything bad happens in the first 15 minutes. I don't believe that myself. So if I said that, then I misspoke. I just say most of the bad things that are going to happen to you are going to happen within the first month, maybe 2 months. That's what history tells us. But adding on top of the EAU, in general, I agree with you. EAU is something that's kind of done in the past. It's not that old either, but they came up with a new, that's not that rigorous in the past, but they came up with a new process under Trump. This was done by his FDA commissioner. He came up with this EAU plus idea, and they started rigorously testing before they issued that EAU. And let's be honest with this for 1 minute. You guys are just going to move the goalposts. As soon as they give full authorization from the FDA, some
Who
other
are you
Facebook,
guys? Hold on.
the people who are
Scientists?
saying,
Let's
the
let
people-
IRI finish, please.
the people that are saying, I don't trust this because it doesn't have full approval, y'all are going to move the goalposts out into the parking lot. It doesn't matter. Whatever comes up, you're going to find ways to say, I don't like this because some commentator on the news or some Facebook post is going to get 13 likes. And that's what you guys are going to
You're
roll with.
generalizing the entire population based on a few conspiracy theories.
I mean,
That's what I disagree with.
it is a generalization, but I think it's more directed to me because I was the one talking about it, and you were talking about the EUA versus. But I think it's more directed to me. And And no, I've actually talked to my doctor, and me and my doctor both feel better about waiting until it's a fully approved vaccine by the FDA. That's the way me and my doctor, looking at my medical history, have decided that we're going to wait till it's fully approved. And once it's fully approved, you'll see me get a vaccine. And if you think I'm lying, then I'll post it on Twitter when I get a vaccine if you'd like me to. I'll even tag you in it, IRI.
I think your doctor realized what he's dealing with and said, you know what's the best way to get this guy who's thick-headed to get the vaccine?
Really? Really?
Wow.
Are you suggesting
for the full
Actually,
vaccine
no,
approval.
you've got a good
That'll
point.
get this guy to
You've
come
got a
in and
really
get
good
it.
point.
I guarantee it. I don't even have to know.
Okay.
Guarantee it.
Okay.
That's why
Okay,
vaccine
no,
mandates
we're
don't
done.
work.
We're stopping. We're stopping.
Your
right
doctor's
now.
bait.
We're stopping.
There was a suggestion.
Okay.
Vaccine mandates don't work
No.
because the more you try to force.
Okay. So, let me be very clear. We're not going to go off the rails here, okay? We got next people who also want to talk. We're going to throw it to Kevin. We're going to throw it to T-Jump, finally.
Yeah, I was just going to make a point that, I mean, whilst I disagree with the argument that it's not like tested enough and this kind of thing, because I think it's basically disingenuous from a lot of people, not necessarily the people present, but a lot of people, it's disingenuous nonsense. It doesn't really matter to the main point of this discussion, it seems to me, that if you want to engage in civil society, there are certain rules that one ought to follow. Like I said, not stabbing people or whatever. And when it comes to bodily autonomy, yeah, you can choose not to get the vaccine. I don't think anyone's really arguing opposite to that in this discussion anyway. It's if you want to go to a shop or a restaurant where other people exist, they have the bodily autonomy to not have you cough poison into their lungs. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair compromise in terms of the fact that we know this is killing people and making people ill and putting them in hospital.
Prevent that from happening.
Pardon?
So wouldn't a person also just put a mask on so that someone else couldn't cough directly into their throat? I mean, that comes down to its individual responsibility then, right?
Wearing the mask is mainly to protect other people, not to protect you. It doesn't stop you from breathing other people's air.
Right. That's true.
It stops.
still
And
gotta
also,
go
if
through
you
the
want to
filter
talk
of
about
the
personal
mask.
responsibility, why don't you get the
Still
vaccine?
got to go through the filter of the mask, right?
No, because the point of the mask is that it stops water droplets from the person wearing the mask.
And that's how
Generally
COVID is
from getting
spread,
out.
right? Through water droplets, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if everyone wears a mask,
okay.
everyone's protected from everyone else.
Right.
And
so
I'm in
then,
favour
like,
of that too.
The like hyperbolic example that you put there, right, was you don't want people being able to just go cough in other people's throats. But if you're wearing a mask,
Well, I'm being slightly
right,
hyperbolic in my
stops somebody
language.
from being able to cough directly into your throat, right?
Well, no, I'm being hyperbolic with my language, but if you breathe in general, you don't have to literally cough right into my face.
Right.
If
So
you're in the
unless
same
you're
enclosed
hyperbolic,
space
unless
as
I would
me,
actually have to point out the truth in what you're saying, right?
oh, shut
So,
the
like,
fuck up then. I'll
there's an individual
clarify.
responsibility
Jesus
there, right?
Christ. If I'm in the
Okay,
same
good.
enclosed space as somebody else, like a restaurant, for instance, them just breathing, if they've got COVID, is going to enter my lungs. And if you're
Wait, I
vaccinated...
thought we just said it was spread by water droplets. Now you're saying that it's airborne. Is it airborne or is it
No,
water droplets?
listen, CTV,
So
this
Kevin's right. You might-
shit,
over a
this
year
is so
old,
bad
we've created these
Oh my
distinctive.
god.
Listen,
You mind if I
water
just
droplets
jump in
can
for a second?
travel through the air. Like this,
Yeah.
So
We
wait,
solved
so
this, like, a
water
year
wait,
ago.
Water droplets.
It's not
not
going
water
through
droplets,
air
sorry,
vents, so it's not
raindrops.
airborne. Is what he's
Stop,
arguing
okay.
that it's not airborne because it's
Can
not
I
moving
talk for a
through air
second?
vents.
Because
and
I've been
shit.
silent the whole time. You mind if I
Okay.
talk for a second?
You are the next person anyway, yes.
So Kevin is correct. If you are breathing and not stopping the water droplet, then the air can come, the water droplets come out of your mouth and get near the mouth of the person with the mask, and they can still breathe them in. So masks that you're wearing don't always protect you, because the water droplets coming from other people's mouth can still get close enough to yours to
What
get
kind
you
of mask
infected.
are you wearing where it doesn't wrap around your face? All the ones I've been wearing have been going all the way across the face. So you tell me where the how just some,
It's not
Unless
about when
you're
it goes
wearing-
over your face. It's about like
unless you're wearing an industrial mask that has 100% of the airflow coming through the front of the mask.
Yeah, but
that
it's water
doesn't protect
droplets.
you.
It's not airborne, right?
Yes, but the water.
Yeah,
okay,
so
so
it can
outside
land
water
on your
droplets
face.
Oh my
hit
God.
your mask,
You
right,
fucking
and make
brain
your
Why
mask
are we arguing?
expand,
This
and
is
you
so
can
off
catch
topic.
coronavirus through the water that other people are spraying when they talk and lands on your mask. You can catch COVID that way, but the mask helps you from spraying water droplets outwards.
Also,
the
the water
idea.
droplets
Maybe
land
this
on
was
your
done
hand.
like 18
if I could just pull us back a little bit on subject,
Yeah, this-
because
Yeah, seriously,
I
we
think
got
the
way
way-
off.
I
This
think
is like
the way-
1920s
Stop.
stuff,
Stop.
dude.
Okay,
Everybody
everybody
knows
I
this
wanna-
stuff.
No, you're
future
a
and your
fucking
engagement.
idiot.
Stop.
I can't equate for you being a fucking moron.
Stop.
Jesus.
Okay.
I feel like people should be
Guys,
more charitable.
Jesus Christ. T-Jump, you are next to speak. You will be next to talk.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention that there are legitimate reasons to not take the vaccine that have nothing to do with health conditions. Like, for example, the fact that it changes your RNA, like you can genuinely be afraid of that. It's fair to be afraid of something that's new. Even though it has been rigorously tested, I agree it's been rigorously tested. Having anxiety about that is a real thing, and not wanting to have the influence of the anxiety on your body is a legitimate reason to not take the vaccine. Also, it causes side effects like myocarditis and pericarditis. So it does have side effects, which you may also want to avoid, which are also legitimate reasons to not take the vaccine. Clearly, you could make the argument that COVID might be worse, but if that's something they're not as afraid of, they are legitimate in not taking the vaccine for those reasons. Also, like for the water droplets thing, like if you're talking, the spit can land on people's hands and then they can touch their face and get affected. So mask is for your own protection of other people, not the other way around.
Excuse me, could I ask T-Jump really quick? Did you say that there might be scared because the vaccine changes RNA, or did you mean to say DNA?
RNA.
I know what you mean.
Okay.
It manipulates the RNA in the cell.
Wait, why is that relevant though? Like vaccines, change. They change your biology in some way or another, right? They either like supply your cells with the antibodies necessary to fight a certain virus. Why is that an anxiety that we should be worried about? "Quote unquote," changing your RNA. I don't think that's how it works. The RNA encourages like a spike protein being generated, right? Like that's how that works. That like
Yeah, the
deflects-
mRNA is it's like a mimicking almost of the actual virus
I don't think
that
it
they're
quote
able
unquote
to inject.
changes your RNA. That's not.
No,
but
I can.
even if
That's
it
not how any of it
Like,
works.
why is that a specific concern when like all vaccines change your biology in some way? All medicines
I
change your
can
biology.
definitely answer this.
Yeah,
For
I
a
wish
fact.
you would,
there's a-
BX.
there's-
I really wish you would, because this non-knowledge talking right now is just.
I mean, like it
I agree.
frustrates
Shut
me
up, CTV.
personally because
yeah,
like
Hunter, shut your fucking mouth.
I don't know if it's my turn yet, so I'll wait.
Yeah, it's still my turn technically.
Bye,
Okay,
stop
so-
alone.
See
So
what you did, Hunter? You wanted to be
Okay,
a smart
we're-
ass, right? So just let the lady talk. Now, BX,
Okay.
if you would, please.
Wait, what do you
I'll
mean? It
wait
was
for
still
Dylan to moderate.
It was still T-Jump's thing. It wasn't done yet.
Yeah, so it's an RNA vaccine, which means what it does is it adds RNA into your cell, which is it's not the inside of the cell, so it's not the DNA. It's RNA, which is separate. RNA creates proteins separately from DNA. They're not the same thing, but it does create things in the cell, which is different than adding chemicals to your body, which then is processed by cells. So there is a difference in the changes between an RNA vaccine and just a different chemical that's added to your body. So they're not the same, and there is a legitimate concern there that if you're messing with the
what are those
contents,
differences
Not
that
true.
justifies the
And what are
anxiety?
those concerns? Because I don't think those concerns are fair. Like, if all you're saying is the mRNA vaccine being different equals concern, then I would say get over it. This has been mRNA vaccines, for example. Although the COVID is the first mRNA vaccine we're seeing, they've been tested since, earlier than 2013. They've been doing clinical trials for a long, long time. I don't. That might be a reason why they might be scared, but ultimately, I would say that's kind of a dumb reason to be scared then, because maybe it changes stuff, but ultimately it's going to protect you against this virus. And I think a better, more practical thing to point to is just the fact that the majority of hospitalizations now are people who aren't vaccinated. The majority of, if you want to look at people who have even gotten sick after being vaccinated, yeah, it happens very rarely. Out of those people, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction actually go on to actually die from COVID. It is significant to get the vaccine. Even the Delta variant, it gives you 70% protection against this new Delta variant. These are real practical ways that people will benefit. And as someone who, not to get all personal, but as someone who last year lost a grandfather to COVID, seeing a lot of this vaccine misinfo get spread around and seeing people get scared of it for really dumb reasons or reasons that they don't understand is oftentimes pretty disheartening.
well, the reason is because it's
Is
a
it my
new
turn?
thing. So BX actually mentioned this. BX mentioned this earlier, that new diseases or new medicines have been approved by the FDA, which led to serious defects, especially in children, that were not seen at the time. That is a legitimate concern. It's a real thing that's happened many times in history. So the fact that this is a novel thing that's occurring is a legitimate thing for people who don't understand it to be afraid of. I think that we should trust studies. I'm definitely an advocate of science, so I think that I definitely think it works just fine, and I'm not afraid of it. But it is a legitimate concern people have. That is a very rational thing for them to have, is to have reticence towards new diseases. And I think I'll let BX go next.
So
Muted.
give me
Okay,
one-
I've been waiting. Hold on.
Okay. I believe Sprout was waiting before you though. Sprout did raise his hand. He is on the list. It will be Sprout then BX.
Give me 1 second. It was suggested that my doctor was not filling his his medical duty to make sure that what happens best for the patient. It was assumed that the doctors wanted me out of his office. And I just want to make this very clear. I have medical conditions which I'm not willing to give medical history out available on Twitch. So please don't ask me what my medical history is. I'm not going to tell you. But I do have medical history, and me and my doctor looked at the medical history, and we both came to the same conclusion that it'd be better for me to wait till the vaccine is fully approved. And IRI, if you want to tag when I get my full approval, when it gets full approval and I get a vaccine, I'll tag you on Twitter. But I'll yield the rest of my time to BX Bullet.
All right. Well, so there's a lot of people who like to, say, well, I think that this is probably how the drug works. But in reality, there are scientists who know exactly how the drug works, and you're all wrong. And I really don't even want to get into the, semantics, because it doesn't even really matter. But so there are absolutely side effects that pop up, especially in vaccines later on down the road. We've seen it with MERS, we saw it with RSV, we saw it with dengue fever, we saw it with lots of different types of vaccines have had long-lasting effects. And we've got lessons learned from these, which is why the FDA has put such strict requirements in place for this EAU. I will concede, it is very strict what they put in place. Basically what they're waiting on now are more people to track and acquire the data, and they are using the people who are vaccinated right now in their data pool. That's what VAERS is for. And, so they are tracking, they are monitoring all these side effects. I'll agree with what T-Jump just said. There's valid reasons why people would want to wait. It's not just because they're idiots. It's because there is a history of vaccines having, serious adverse events. And you can say, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And that's fine. I don't fucking care. But, it is. I can link you the articles and stuff. There's also an interesting argument I read the other day. If a lot of you guys are pushing for vaccinate everybody, which I would honestly say we should be focusing on vaccinating the countries that are mainly unvaccinated rather than pointing your finger at your neighbors and shit. We really need to be getting the vaccinated out to completely unvaccinated countries, because that's where the variants are coming from. They're not coming from your Karen neighbors, so stop it. The Delta variant came from India, where less than 2% of the people were vaccinated. So, and the Delta variant popped up before the vaccines even came on to the scene. So that's what I think we should focus on, vaccinating people in other countries, getting the vaccine out widespread to the world. It's way more important than making sure every single one of your neighbors is vaccinated. And another interesting point is that there are 7 billion people on the planet. Let's say that there was a 0.5% chance of a severe nerve damage response or something that happened, like a respiratory disease that was going to happen later on down the road. And you vaccinated 7 billion people. How many people would die or be seriously injured from that? A lot. That's why it's important to give people their space and let them make that decision for themselves, because people are honestly scared and they have reasons to be skeptical. They have reasons to be hesitant. Minorities, especially people who distrust the government, that's not a reflection on them. That's a reflection on their government. Their government, who has committed a lot of atrocities against them in their time. So I think we all need to be a bit more charitable and quit calling each other idiots for having opinions. This is an important topic, and I think that everybody deserves to have their piece. But I just wish people would quit saying things that were just wrong on both sides.
There's a point about if they could just release the patents for some of these drugs as well to these poorer countries, so they could create their own versions of it a lot cheaper. And that's a way in which that we could really help those third world countries. But unfortunately,
I don't know if that would actually benefit very much.
When it comes to dealing with these kind of global situations, capitalism is not necessarily the best system for it.
Oh boy. Okay. Listen, you set the landmine down. I think it's best if we all just notice where you set it and walk around it. I don't think anybody cares to debate the big capitalism boogeyman. But at the end of the day, people getting vaccinated is going to come down to their personal choice. I think there's a reason that no enforcement policies have been put into place, today. And the whole point of this topic, I am a little bit uncomfortable with putting business operators into the role of enforcing something like vaccine mandates. I'm not sure that's necessarily the role of, people who operate businesses to enforce something like this. But, whatever we can do to encourage people to want to take the vaccine, I think is a good thing. So in general, calling people idiots and shit is only going to further entrench them. Communicating how the vaccine works and its record of safety and its record of benefits that it can provide to people who receive the vaccine. The longer the period of time from which people have gotten vaccines, and the scarcity of like adverse effects that have been presented, typically the right things to present to people, right?
I think it comes down to who's getting killed by this virus, and that's why these people don't care. If the next variant kills babies within days, I guarantee all these people will be out there getting vaccines. They just don't care. They don't care who's dying from it right now. To them, it's a culling of the herd. That's all it is.
Could I
It's
just
the
cut in really
frail,
quick?
it's the old.
This
I
is
wanna
extremely,
follow up on-
extremely
wait,
disingenuous.
Yeah, that's
Wait.
not a great framing, and I want to kind of follow up on what TJ was saying.
Can I just
Wait,
from
I,
a
wait, wait,
practical
wait. I
point of
just
view,
want
can I just give
wait.
the
I want
example?
to wait. I don't care. Irai, I wanted to hear what you were saying. You got kind of cut off. Could you please finish?
No, that's all I got to say is the next variant could be something that is way more deadly, right? This Delta variant is like 4 times more contagious. And what if the next variant is something that just kills babies within a week or something? All these people we got to wait, and, 7 years later, somebody got sick. And, BX's argument is ridiculous to me that if 0.00007% of people end up getting injured or something.
That's not even close to the actual percentage of people. That's way,
whatever
way
it is. What about
magnitudes
people
less.
that die?
It doesn't matter.
What about the people that die of the virus?
Let me
and we
ask
don't
you a
prevent
question.
that?
Can I ask you a question real quick? Okay, so like if they were to come out tomorrow and say that, oh yeah, there's a pretty significant chance of side effects, there's like a 0.25% chance, you'd be like, that's nothing. But you want to vaccinate the entire world. 0.25% of 7 billion people is a lot of people who would be injured, which is why it's important to make sure that these are safe. But I can see that they are doing that. They are doing their best. But I'm trying to make a case for the reason why people are hesitant. If you haven't caught up on that.
The thing is that people are probably hesitant. And what T-Jumps was getting at, I kind of understand, because people, okay, let me rephrase it, because I feel like people are thinking that all I said is that they're all just idiots. But they might have justified reasons in their own mind for why they don't want to get vaccines, okay? It might not literally be that they are so dumb they don't know how to read and they just don't want to get the vaccine. I think that they probably have a reason that they have thought through and have decided and have a justification in their head as to why not to get it. However, what I'm getting at is that most of those reasons and justifications are dumb. Yes, I have yet to hear a good one.
I just told you a good one.
No, your good one was it's still in the
what?
Your good one was it's still in the emergency phase.
Is that what you heard?
That was what you said
earlier. Did you not hear
earlier.
anything else that I've said the entire time?
That is what you just said. That is what you said.
Okay, so you haven't been listening to me. Got it.
I wasn't.
Real quick, there's one that I want to address. I deeply want to address BX Bullet. So minorities being afraid to take the vaccine because of a history of using minorities as lab rats or something like that. The same vaccine is being given to everybody. It's universal.
I'm just talking about like why they are distrustful of public health officials in general, not just because
I just want to unroot why that should not be applicable here, or like a line of reasoning we really ought to entertain or think is really reasonable.
Okay.
It's a very bad line of reasoning to entertain. Yeah, because
like I just said, it's being given to everybody. I got it. I'm white as fuck.
Right. It doesn't have anything to do with like minorities have a distrust of the medical field for good reasons, I'm sure. But that doesn't extend.
And watch them die. So,
but that doesn't extend to this current vaccine that's being given to everybody.
I'm just saying that there significantly a higher percentage of like Black Americans, Native Americans who distrust public health officials, and that is rooted in history. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they should still be, but I'm saying that that's why.
It's not applicable in this case, though, right?
Yeah, that's a valid concern to have, but exactly, it's not applicable when it comes to the
I'm trying
vaccine
to create a charitable argument for why you should quit being so hateful towards your neighbors who are hesitant to get the vaccine.
I'm not being hateful. I sometimes think that people...
Everyone here is kind of being hateful.
I'm saying that I have yet to hear a really good, compelling reason why somebody
an idiot.
Yeah, really? I have yet to hear a good, compelling reason as to why somebody wouldn't get the vaccine.
I told you one earlier. I was talking about the long history of, adverse effects to vaccines popping up years later. I even put a study in the general chat.
So are you? Would that be? Would you be against vaccine? Would you be against vaccinations in general? Because
no, absolutely not. But they're well studied, and I think that people should have a choice to get it or not. I don't think people should be forced.
What is the most recent? What is the most recent case
of situation right now is that we're actually
hold on, CTV. Sorry, the grown-ups are talking real quick.
Wait, CTV. Someone was
nobody's interested in listening to you. I'm sorry.
Conceived in human history.
What is the most recent example
That's
of
what we're all
widespread
participating in
adverse
right now.
effects?
I can't hear
anything. Okay, I can't hear anything either. Okay.
CTV.
Okay. Wait. Okay. for a moment. CTV, what were you saying?
We are all participating, right, in one of the largest human trials in human history. We're administering a drug that's not actually FDA approved by the government. It was given emergency authorization. And the reason why it's as well studied as it is because we're all participating in the largest clinical trial in human history, period.
It's true. No, it's not.
Are
They
they
are
keeping tabs on
absolutely
us? Are they
collecting
gonna
data.
follow up?
Yes.
Wait. Supreme.
They are using
All right, I
theirs.
just wanted to ask I just wanted to ask. You were positing like a long history of widespread problems associated with vaccines or something, and I'm just curious, like, what the most recent example of that is, and like what the
I can
scope
answer
of
that.
has been.
Well,
I
so
can
you know,
answer that if you
I posted it. Did I post it in chat? I could post you the article that's a lesson learned article. It's a peer reviewed study. It's not just like a fucking
Sure.
Yahoo News article.
Medicine's an ongoing
That
process.
talks about lessons learned as far as vaccines causing, long-term side effects. Specifically, when you're reintroduced to a virus later on down the road, and what can happen is your immune response can kind of go into overdrive. And it's purely hypothetical, but it's just people from the science community who are saying, hey, there's some reason why some people might be hesitant, because it is possible. Quit saying it's not possible. It absolutely is
one
possible.
sure
That
wasn't.
It's
something could be
possible that
wrong
every
with it later on
molecule in
down
my
the
body
road.
could disassociate and reassemble at the North Pole. It is possible.
Okay, that's
It's highly
It's
unlikely.
also possible that I could take too much
possible.
Tylenol and my liver could fail.
I don't know what the
So-
point of
so-
all of
so-
this is.
so-
Okay,
All I'm
so-
advocating for is
let me
personal
jump-
choice.
No.
So let
okay,
me jump.
so-
let me jump
well,
in. There's been historical.
I want to throw it to Kevin first. He rose his hand a while ago, so I want to make sure Kevin gets time to speak. Kevin's muted.
Yeah, I was muted. A couple of quick points. Firstly, I think it's very interesting that CTV brings up that it's not been authorized by the government. So he now trusts the government somehow? Or is
Approved
this
by the
just
FDA.
just a straw? Well, no, he said strictly it's not been approved by the government. Does he trust the government now?
FDA. Hello?
The FDA is
Part of the government.
sponsored.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you
organization.
trust the government now as a conservative, yeah? You trust the government.
The
Or
fuck
you
are
being
you talking
disingenuous.
about?
What?
You're being disingenuous. Okay,
What
fair enough.
the fuck are you talking about? What's your point?
My point is you're a hypocrite. Never mind.
I
Just
it
kind of
sucks
dumb.
it whenever you point out a fact, and then the entire argument that you want to try to
Oh,
make
shut
is
up,
like
you
whether or
boring
not I
Okay.
trust the government.
Jesus.
Whenever there's a
All right.
whole different principled standpoint that someone
You
else
don't
can
have a
fucking stand
principled
on.
standpoint. You're just a weirdo. What are you
I
talking
want to.
about?
I want to
Just
address
a
this whole like.
weirdo.
We're okay.
Yeah.
I no longer. Okay, I don't mean to. I don't want to engage in this kind of back and forth quibbling. So this is what I'm going to do. It's going to go to T Jump, then it's going to go to Sprout, then it's going to go back to Supreme because I'm interested in what he has to say. Then we're probably going to look towards wrapping it up.
Okay, so I wanted to hear Hunter. He said he's never heard a reasonable reason to not take the vaccine, but BX and I just presented an extremely reasonable reason, is that there are long-term unknown side effects of many drugs, and it's not. And was it Supreme asked for the most recent case? Like, you can just find this article on ABC News that almost 1/3 of new drugs approved by the U.S. regulators over a
Well, I
decade
posted in chat.
ended up
Okay.
years later with warnings about unexpected life-threatening side effects of the 220.
Sorry, vaccine. What is the most recent example?
Doesn't
of
matter.
a
The
well,
vaccine
that's what I
doesn't
asked.
matter.
That's a
You're
10-year
claiming to answer
study
my
that
question,
came
but
out
you're
in
Can I
not.
just say something?
2017.
Really quick,
It was
really
asked.
quick.
Wait. Who was that asked
So my
to?
turn?
Wait, who was that asked to?
That was asked to T Jump. T Jump claims to be answering my question about the most recent example of a vaccine culminating in widespread.
All right, hold on one second, and I can
adverse
answer it for you.
effects.
Well,
Sure.
wait.
Got it right
okay.
here.
He was asked. Let's have T Jump answer the question.
Well, I don't care about the specific vaccine. This is a reasonable reason because it's a very common thing of all drugs. Like, the vaccines apply like the same as everything else. Like, I don't know why he's picking out vaccines as if this is significant, because it's not. All drugs have this effect. So it's reasonable, in addressing to Hunter's point, it's reasonable to not take the vaccine because
that?
of this very common occurrence. Therefore, I want to hear what.
Sorry, can you
why Hunter
just
thinks
rattle off
this
the
is-
stat
No,
again?
it's
I'll
not
entertain
that
it.
comment.
I'll
It
entertain
might
it.
be
What
comment-
was the stat?
Wait, hold on.
1/3 of
I
all
put it.
drugs.
Hold on.
Wasn't he
putting it in
asking me a
chat,
question?
guys.
Sorry.
Yes, I was asking Hunter a question. Why is this not a
So I-
reasonable reason?
So I already
I put it
conceded
in
that some.
chat.
Okay. The reasonable reason being. Sorry, could you repeat that one more time, please?
So the reasonable reason to not take a new drug is because there is a history of new drugs having long-term side effects that we don't know about yet. That fear
Okay, sure.
itself
So
is-
my response to that would be that is just as it's equally unreasonable to not take the vaccine because we also don't know the long-term effects of having COVID. So if we're going to go ahead and take that route, there are long-term risks that we're taking in both cases. However, we do have some decent studies, of course, not 10 years down the line, that's true, but we have some decent studies, and so far, nothing has suggested that there are any long-term effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. So you might be right that some drugs have side effects. All drugs have potential side effects. The question would have to be, do those side effects outweigh the risk of getting COVID? Do those side effects actually outweigh this current vaccine? So yeah, I already kind of conceded that I think there's certainly a possibility that people have a thought out reason for not getting the vaccine, but usually it comes down to things like that. Like, well, I'm worried about the long-term effects of the vaccine. Well, what about the long-term effects of COVID? There's literally been long-term effects of COVID showing it can cause all kinds of lung issue and even infertility.
Yeah, we have 2 years of studies on that. I mean,
Okay, so I'll just take my next spot off on the list here.
Okay.
There is historical data, historical vaccine safety concerns, going from Qatar incident 1955, the simian virus 40, 1955-1963, swine flu vaccine Guillain-Barré syndrome 1976, hepatitis B 1998, rotavirus vaccine in interception 1998 through 1999,
Listen.
GBS. Wait, no, I'm not done yet.
You have to tell us the scope and severity of the adverse effect.
I will
This
do
doesn't mean
it. So I
anything.
will do it with the very last one, which is the most recent one. Which one
Okay.
you're asking? If you wouldn't interrupt, I'd be able to finish. You would have understood that. The HIV vaccine recall in 2007. Now this is the most recent one. There we go. Ready? The H1N1 influenza vaccine and narcolepsy. An increased risk of narcolepsy was found following vaccination with Pandemrix, a monovalent 2009 H1N1 influenza vaccine. It was used in several European countries during the H1N1 influenza pandemic. This risk was initially found in Finland, and some other European countries also detected an association. The 2014
Wikipedia
CDC published.
what was the risk?
Amazing.
No, this is not Wikipedia. This is coming from the CDC. It's posted in the Discord.
Nothing's
if you
wrong
like
with
to do-
Wikipedia either. That would be a dishonest attack. Sorry, Kevin.
Fine. Tell me, it sounds like that was
No, I'm
in
saying he's
combination with another
cherry-picking,
drug. It sounds like this was an
I'm
interaction.
not cherry-picking.
with
This is
drug.
information from the
Vaccine.
CDC.
Okay, there's multiple people
Just
talking at
anti-vax
once.
nonsense.
Okay, there's multiple
The
people
problem
talking
with
at
this
once.
is that
But okay, the topic's over. You all just frustrated me. I just don't want to do this topic anymore. No outros. We're going to the next topic. Okay, the next topic is
can I go now? Is this the last of it?
what?
Do you Oh wait, there's still one more topic. That's right. Sorry.
Don't make
Wow.
closing statements.
No, there's no closing
Wow.
statements.
I was asking to leave the panel now early.
Yes, you were.
That's what I was asking.
Wow.
What is
No.
Dylan's executive answer?
No, I would appreciate if you booked for a panel, you would stay for the whole panel.
All right, I got you, buddy.
Okay. We're going to do the last topic now. The last topic is going to be about the eviction moratorium. The eviction moratorium recently, there was a huge debate on whether it was going to get extended. It seems to have been mostly extended through the actions of the Biden administration, and many people have attributed it to the protests of Cory Bush outside of the legislature. But then the question should be, should the eviction moratorium have been extended? Should the eviction moratorium have been extended? I'm going to start in the bottom right-hand corner with T-Jump.
We do like a Jeopardy song.
T-Jump. There we go.
Yeah, so I don't actually have a strong position on this because I think there's good arguments on both sides. I think that there are many different renters who are extremely wealthy and can definitely afford it, like Donald Trump. Like he can afford to like be forced to maintain people. That's fine. But many renters are like mom and pops who are renting their duplex or a part of their home to somebody, and they still have to pay rent. They still have to pay electricity and water, and somebody using this can really destroy their finances if they are forced to maintain them in their house. So there's good reasons for some people to absolutely still have to maintain the living standards of the people they're housing, and there's good reasons for people who are like mom and pops to not have to do that. So there's good reasons on both sides, and it's a really tough issue because I think that it's situational when it's actually justified to imply this moratorium, and certain situations where it's definitely not justified. And many of those cases are with the mom and pop houses. It's just not justified. I think that might even could be the majority of cases.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to Supreme.
Well, I mean, I guess they already made the decision, right? Should it have been extended? I mean, whatever keeps, people off, from being homeless and in their homes is probably better, but at this point, I really hope that people understand where the buck ought to stop. People need to be putting pressure on their state and local governments to be distributing the federal aid that's out there. The federal government has already done the work of creating a moratorium, um, you know, allotting the money, 22 billion at first, and then another 21 billion. I may be off 1 or 2 billion or something like that, close to 50 billion as of today. I think only 3 billion has been used. So there's still 40 some billion that's being used or that's just floating and waiting for state and local governments to distribute the money. People need to be putting pressure on their state and local governments to hurry up and get that money out. And I think right now the most practical estimation of how much back rent is owed is only 20 something billion or something, maybe as high as 30 billion. So right now there's 15 extra billion dollars just in excess waiting to pay people's back rent and make sure they don't get evicted. So I don't know.
Okay, next is gonna be Kevin.
Obviously it should be extended. Anything that keeps people off the streets is good in any time, let alone when we're talking about COVID and not wanting people ideally to congregate in Skid Row or whatever would be probably an ideal situation. America is the richest nation that has ever existed. The idea that you have any homeless people at all is absolutely mind-blowing, let alone talking about the rights and wrongs of putting millions more on the streets seems very strange to me. A tiny sliver of the absolutely ridiculously bloated military budget would easily take care of this situation. I don't know why this needs to be talked about in the year of our Lord 20 and 21. I rest my case. Oh, actually, no, finally, fuck landlords. I rest my case.
Next, we're going to be over to IRI.
It shouldn't have to be extended, but it does because, as Supreme pointed out, the money that was allocated, more than enough to make people whole and landlords whole specifically, just hasn't been distributed. It's about 6% of the $50 billion that hasn't been or that's been given out. And Congress and our government made sure there was about up to 12 months of rent that can be paid. So, I mean, I feel like if a landlord were to evict somebody right now, how are you going to get that back rent? Because the tenant's the one that has to apply for it. And so it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But Brett Kavanaugh himself said in the Supreme Court order that deemed the CDC's moratorium on evictions unconstitutional, that he would allow it to keep going until it expires because of that distribution of money. And he wanted to see that happen. The Supreme Court ruled before the Delta variant started picking up steam. So I have a feeling even Kavanaugh would agree that we need a little more time with the moratorium on evictions to get that money out there and make people whole.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Sprout.
Okay. So I think that this eviction moratorium, what it's doing is it's people are kicking the can down the road. There's some people that just aren't paying rent and they're just moving it along. What you're going to see once the moratorium ends is you're going to see a housing crash. You're going to see the housing market crash. You're going to see a lot of foreclosures. You're going to see a lot of people evicted from their apartments just because they failed to make those payments. This moratorium it being extended is providing more harm than good. These landlords are losing money. They have to continue paying mortgage because mortgage payments weren't stopped. I can tell you that for one, because my mortgage payment was not halted. I still had to pay my mortgage. Mortgage payments didn't stop, so these landlords still have to pay the mortgage payment or lose their property once this moratorium ends. And so with all this money they're not getting from renting their house, they have to try and figure out where they're going to get it from their own pockets. There is mortgage assistance that's going on in this country that people can feel free to take and apply for to try and keep up with rent during this time. And there's also stuff that these stimulus bills where they gave out money that could have gone to mortgage. I don't know each specific situation, but I think the moratorium should have stopped. Also, when the Supreme Court ruled on this, it was prior to the extension, and it was so close to the cutoff date when the Supreme Court ruled on this that I believe Brett Kavanaugh was like, just let it expire. We don't need to cut it short. But we can keep moving forward.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Hunter.
I think that if the question is, should it be extended? Yeah, it should be extended, but that doesn't actually mean that it can. I know it has right now, but I don't know how long that's going to last. A couple stats here based on the Census Pulse survey data. Between 2 and 4% of Americans say they could be evicted from their homes in the next 2 months. So obviously, with a highly contagious pandemic, the Delta variant, et cetera, probably having 2 to 4% of the population on the streets is not a great thing. However, if we're going to extend this moratorium, landlords need to be subsidized. I'm sorry, Kevin. I disagree with you when you say fuck landlords. I think that a lot of landlords are in a situation where they own multiple homes and they're able to rent one out, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that they should be subsidized, though, appropriately if the moratorium is to be extended. And then finally, when it comes to the practical implementation, this seems very much to be a legal gray area right now. Biden has already acknowledged that his current order extending the moratorium until October may not even hold up under constitutional scrutiny. So ideally, the moratorium will be extended by Congress and landlords will be appropriately subsidized. That, of course, is the ideal situation.
Okay, now I'm throwing it over to CTV.
Well, the simple answer is no. Then you get into everything that everybody else has already said. And then that's what makes you go, this is going to be a really, really interesting conversation. And I'm going to leave it out there like that. So the first two topics, I didn't have much to say. Expect me to talk more during this one.
Okay, BX.
Yeah, I'm probably like in the opposite camp here. Like I honestly, like I've been looking into this, but I can kind of see both sides, and I'm not like super knowledgeable on this topic, but I definitely agree that we shouldn't be evicting people, kicking them on the streets and letting them become homeless and breed COVID factories. But we have to do something about the issues with the landlords, because I know people personally who've been foreclosed on over it. They're just normal people like us. They're not like crazy, angry apartment overlords twirling their mustaches. These are actual people who are also suffering. So we have to keep that in mind. The money has been misappropriated. Hopefully we can all agree that the money that they provided for rent assistance is just not done what we were wanting it to do. I'm also worried about, a housing crash or the implications of the housing market too. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what everybody has to say. Maybe I'll learn some more about this topic and form more of a opinion.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to throw it over to open dialogue. Supreme has his hand up. If you want to grab it, you can grab it right off the bat.
Okay. Actually, the people that I'm most worried about now that the new moratorium, the eviction moratorium, has been passed, are homeowners and landlords, especially like individual landlords, because there has been a moratorium on foreclosures, but that hasn't kept people who have to pay a mortgage. So if I'm not renting, if I took out a mortgage, right, to buy the home that I live in, nobody's going to evict me, but the bank can certainly tank the fuck out of my credit if I'm not able to make my mortgage payments. I could be in the same exact economic position as anybody who's renting, where I lost my job due to COVID, any other sort of financial hardships that came through COVID. But, your credit is not necessarily ruined by not being able to pay rent, but not being able to pay your mortgage will absolutely ruin you. Aside from that, people who own a home to rent out or whatever, this is an investment they're making. They have to raise the capital to make a down payment. It's a gamble. They're on the hook for any expenses that are incurred at the home, even if it's caused by the tenant. It's work, it's stress. It's like an investment that comes with a lot of trade-offs.
They could just not do that and get a job.
Okay, but they choose to do it, and it's a service they perform for people who would prefer to rent.
But no one's. You're asking it's this great imposition on them. All these other things, they could just choose not to become a fucking landlord.
You're
making a disingenuous argument.
What does it matter?
You're suggesting that these landlords are evil people because they have houses that they're willing to rent out.
It's not even that. It's that.
No, they're willing to save up money to actually buy a house.
No.
Yeah, they're leeches. Yeah,
wait.
Stop.
I said. Yes. The next person to talk when I am talking is going to be muted, and it's going to be muted for about 5 to 10 minutes. and I'm not going to unmute you, no matter how much you beg and cry, okay? Wonderful. If that pisses you off and makes you want to leave, then that's you. That's you, buddy. Okay. That was 3 people piling on one person at the same time. That's not fair. Everybody can acknowledge that. Everybody's been put in that position before. So I'm going to have, since there was 3 people disagreeing with him, we're going to go one by one and have him respond to it, because it's not fair to Kevin to just have 3 people jump on him at the same time. So we're going to start with Supreme, then we're going to go to Sprout, then we're going to go to Hunter, and Kevin can respond to them one by one if we're going to do it this way. So Supreme, you can finish your criticism.
I want to fire through this really quick. I just want to ask a series of questions. Number one, do you at least feel some sympathy for homeowners that are not landlords, but they do not have the protections that the eviction moratorium lends to renters?
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
creditors.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Now, for landlords, you call them leeches.
Yeah.
So they save a down payment. They use it to secure a mortgage on a home that they're now renting out. What happens if the costs associated with operating that property end up superseding, the revenue that they get, right? The payments that they get in terms of rent, and then also the property value declines over time. They end up losing money. They end up more in the hole than before they started. Are they still leeches? Yeah, that is the risk reward. I agree, but are they still leeches? They're still leeches, even if they
they're
lose
just
on the
bad
investment?
leeches. Yeah, they're inefficient leeches. Yeah.
Okay, a leech is something that sucks something up, but we're
money
talking about someone who's
from
spending
renters.
something out.
Yeah.
But they're
those
also
renters,
providing something to those renters.
They are providing
also, right?
something.
But they don't need to. I mean, if you lose out,
it's a lot easier to. It's a lot easier
but the renters,
to rent
there's
than
a
buy a
market
house.
of renters. There's a market of people who are searching for places to live in that don't require them to save $40,000 to secure a mortgage.
Yeah,
I
but
was
why
one
should
of
there
those
have to be
I'm one of those people.
Why should there have to be a $40,000 wait for that? Why can't there be some other assistance program in place to allow people to get onto the mortgage ladder? If we're going to do the capitalism thing,
There are assistance programs.
Yeah.
There are assistance programs, but aside from that, there are other reasons you may want to not purchase a home. I love renting. I'll never purchase another home again, probably. I mean, unless I become a super millionaire. It allows me tons of freedom to move.
Good for you, yeah. That's.
I think this is true for many
people.
situation.
There's a lot of people, Kevin, and I feel like what you're doing right now is now kind of the virtue signal, because it's kind of like the fuck landlords, very lefty.
No, it's not virtue signaling to say I don't want
it is
people
because
to be
what we're talking.
homeless.
We're asking you to recognize the service that landlords provide.
And not even the service,
system of
but
landlording.
also
I don't even see it as a service. I see it as them buying up houses and then them essentially forcing people, because ultimately.
But that's why I'm asking you to acknowledge the service.
Yeah,
because you don't see it that way, and we're presenting them to you and asking you to acknowledge or disacknowledge them.
I don't see it fundamentally as a service. I see it as them withholding housing that could be used in other ways. In a different
what should they do with that instead?
Have you ever owned a home, Kevin?
I'm literally a mortgage payer right now.
Okay,
so I don't
you're a mortgage
technically own all of the home, but I'm a mortgage payer.
What would it look like if you wanted to move from that home?
What do you mean, what would it look like?
Well, okay, what is the process you would have to initiate if you were to move? If you got a job opportunity somewhere else, for example, that you wanted to take up? If you wanted to,
Well, I'd essentially have to sell this mortgage back to either another person or to the bank or something, and then get another mortgage / rent in the new place. Yeah.
What does that timeline look like?
It depends, I suppose. I mean, I literally, it's the first mortgage I've had, so I've never had to end a mortgage, so I don't really know.
Okay, I've had to end a mortgage. It sucks. Like,
I'm sure it do. Yeah, absolutely.
It takes a long time.
It took me an entire year to sell my house, and I ended up having to pay for it, like because a buyer fell through or whatever. I ended up having to pay the mortgage on that house and rent where I was living simultaneously for about 3 to 6 months.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah, that sucks. You were being leeched off for months. It was terrible. Yeah.
Wait, who was I being
agree.
leeched off of by?
What?
Who was I being leeched off of by?
Whoever you were renting from. I don't know who they are, but.
Wait, so why do you act
what would
like...
it matter if I had bought a house? The point is, I moved out here because I was scheduled to go to school, and the people who were scheduled to buy my home fell through.
This is a virtue signal by definition.
Or rented. It wouldn't matter. I would have been having to pay 2 payments for 2 houses. Why is this?
Well, you shouldn't have to, is my point. But I mean, yeah.
Even if Supreme would have had to go get another mortgage, Supreme would still be paying. 2 payments for 2 houses. So, I mean, I don't know why you're acting like landlords who fix up the house, who do maintenance on the house for the renter, who
in an ideal world they do these things, yes, but there are many who are
when they don't do these things, guess what? You
limited.
can withhold rent, you can take them to court and wait for all this
people
stuff.
have money to go to court all the time, yeah, and the time and
hours and hours of labor of having to like fix things up around my house in order to sell it. The thousands of dollars I had to spend on materials and stuff.
No, you didn't have to do any of that. You didn't have
I did if I wanted to not lose like $20,000-$30,000.
Exactly, but you took the choice in the system. Yeah, you decided to enter into that thing. That's on you. That's
why I'm thankful that there are base landlords to help me avoid those costs and labor in the future.
That's embarrassing. I'm sorry, that's just embarrassing. Get over yourself, man.
I don't know. I'm kind of with Supreme over here.
You're so judgmental, dude.
Kevin, it sounds like what you're saying is like fuck landlords because it gets you some brownie points from like a lefty dipshit audience. But like there are plenty of people in the real world that benefit.
Hunter, I'm not like.
Hold on, wait. Can I finish a statement, please? Wait.
We'll let Hunter. Wait. Okay, we'll let Hunter finish, but that means like we're gonna make sure Kevin gets time to respond as well.
It's obvious that there are tons and tons of people in this country that benefit from the services provided to them from landlords. So I know it gets you brownie points with your lefty audience to say like fuck landlords or whatever, but when it comes down to it, there are ways that people benefit from that. And second of all, landlords are taking significant risks. Yes, in order to have that property. Lastly, we're talking about like usually what we're talking about, at least here, I believe anyway, I think what Supreme's getting at is more of like that personal landlord. Like these individuals they need subsidies. They need to be protected from the economic fallout just as much as renters do. I feel like you're being really like cold and callous towards a lot of people.
I don't want anyone to fucking get like financially crippled by any disease that happens.
You did this and said yes. When BX Bullet was talking about a landlord that got fucked. So I mean I do want to point that out.
I was joking. I literally said to my chat, based comrade Bullet or something. Like it was a joke.
Do you recognize that like there might be a broken system, but like the individuals in that system aren't necessarily to be like.
Yeah, no, it was a joke. BX, I was doing it was just a meme. It was a meme.
Wait, Kevin, I have a question.
Walking meme. I acknowledge this.
Kevin,
I have a defense of Kevin.
So like Kevin, can you acknowledge then that there are obviously broken systems? Maybe you don't like the system of renters and landlords, but that's not fair for you to incriminate the individuals in that system.
No, I'm not saying that each individual landlord is like some terrible thing, although I would say
what you said was fuck landlords.
You said they fuck landlords and that they're leeches, dude.
That's systemic. But in the same way that when you say like some people have a problem with like all cops are bastards. No one's saying that every single cop is individually like an evil person who tortures puppies.
Well, I hate that slogan too. I think that's
let's let him. Okay, can we? Okay, remember it's everybody versus one person. So let's make sure that he was able to. I didn't even get to hear what he said. Can you repeat what you said? I didn't get to hear it in its entirety.
I want to say something in defense of Kevin, if possible.
Well, I'll have Kevin clarify. Go for it, then we'll throw it to. Oh, just go for it. Okay. Well then.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So I think Kevin sees the entire process of home ownership as leeching because of his political views. I think
he's a homeowner then.
That's fine, but
it's cheaper than renting.
Wait.
It's cheaper than renting.
He's not attacking all homeowners.
No, I'm sorry. You don't get to tell me what I know is true about my situation. Buying a house was cheaper than renting in the area I live. That's just true.
With you, Kevin. So they're saying that you're attacking renters, and I'm saying you're not. You're not attacking renters. You're attacking the entire process of owning.
Yeah, the system is fundamentally.
Why'd you say fuck landlords and that they're leeches?
Exploitative.
Are you aware why?
Wait, I want to let he jump finish his line of questioning.
Right. So Hunter was like accusing you of attacking landlords, and you're not. You're attacking the entire system of home ownership because of the socialist paradigm you're coming from. And so they're mischaracterizing what you said as being an attack of landlords, that they're like bad people, when really you're just criticizing the entire thing of home ownership as a whole.
That's not fair. That's being way too charitable to his argument. What he said was fuck landlords and that they're leeches.
I'm sorry if that triggered you.
Hold on, Kevin, if you have a problem, if we want to charitably interpret your argument as being a problem with the system, that's fine. I acknowledge that there are problems with the systems, but just like I wouldn't say ACAB, yes, just like I wouldn't say ACAB because I don't think all cops are bastards. I can also recognize that
Okay.
the system of policing is broken. So yeah, if you want to apply more nuance to your points, you should have done that, not said fuck landlords and that they're leeches.
Well, no,
Right.
I did. I did the end. I literally did the end thing of
Well, you're
saying
doing
fuck
it now,
landlords
you're
right at the end
It
after
seems
having
like
made
he's
my
just
You're
major
trying. It
point.
sounds like you're trying to walk back your point.
I can't hear
I'm not,
him
mate, I'm
even
not walking
speak.
anything back.
Okay, so
Yes, if you'll allow me to defend Kevin again.
Sure, but
so-
then I want to move on to the eviction moratorium after
Right,
that.
right. So I think you need to use the principle of charity and trying to understand what he's saying and not expect him to say everything perfectly. I think that's an unfair request of Hunter. I think Kevin's point, if you understand enough of his political position, was clear, especially clear to his audience. So I think that the point he was trying to make, if you really listened to his worldview, you know what he was trying to say. He wasn't literally attacking landlords. He was just being edgy because he's at Kevin.
T-Jump,
he's doing it for the memes.
So I love so
That's not
T-Jump,
helping.
T-Jump, I love how charitable you are to Kevin right now. I love how charitable you are to him. But when I tried to clarify his position and say, why are you acting like these landlords are awful people because they buy a house and provide it for other people to live in and on a contract basis? Like, why are you acting like these people are terrible people? And then he responded with, that's exactly what I meant. So as charitable as you want to be, he's made statements. He's made statements that have gone completely against the charity you're giving him.
So do you think all landlords are leeches,
Okay,
Kevin?
But they are literally taking money from the situation for
They're exchanging it for
owned a
goods and
property.
services.
They're exchanging it for
A
goods and
place to
services, exactly.
live.
Yeah, exactly.
Are grocery
And
store
they're
people
incurring
in
some
grocery
risk.
store, are they leeches too for selling groceries to people?
Well, no, but I mean,
Well, then your
ultimately, the
argument
capitalist
doesn't make
system
any
is
sense.
wrong.
So
Yeah, but the point being is that the capitalist system is inherently wrong. That's my fundamental critique of the situation.
I think gravity is fundamentally hard to deal with, but at the end of the day, we have to
Oh yeah,
choose
capitalism's
pragmatic-
like gravity. It's existed forever. Yeah, no, that's totally a fair comparison. Not foolish and silly.
The point is that I'm sympathetic to the idea that one day we may conceive of technology and systems that can allow us to,
the vast majority of human history has not been capitalist.
Sorry, I'm going to finish. If you don't mind,
I would like. No.
I
I want Supreme to finish. Supreme gets to finish.
wait, can I ask a question to Kevin? Like,
Well, after
so
Supreme
do you
finishes.
not
Wait,
realize-
no, wait. After
I haven't
Supreme
even said
finishes.
anything.
Yeah, but Supreme. I just said Supreme would finish. Supreme, please finish.
Listen, I don't want to turn this into the fucking KF Logan ideology fucking ideologue superstar hour or whatever, because like capitalism versus socialism debates. I'm sorry?
I said too late, bitch.
Okay.
Okay, we're done with this. I'm actually.
Listen.
Supreme, finish your point, and then we're done with this. Actually,
Whoa.
continue.
Sure. I understand. I've heard a lot of stories about like massive housing companies that buy up a bunch of properties and then sit on them and let them go vacant in order to like inflate the value of the real estate market. I'm sympathetic to this, right? Like I would never make the claim that like the real estate market as it exists today and quote unquote capitalism, the big boogeyman coming out of the closet as it exists today, is the most perfect, incredible system that can never be improved or enhanced or whatever. But
landlords.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, fucking, that's my ACAB, okay? That's my centrist ACAB.
I think what actually, if I could really, can I say really quick? I think
no,
what
you
he
can't
said.
say anything really quickly because we're moving on to eviction moratoriums because we're not even talking about the topic.
I really wanted to get here. The point is that there are individuals who either, right, like take the risk and make the, I think, suboptimal investment in real estate as you've made, Kevin. I would love to be able to demonstrate that to you, that what you're actually paying to buy a house, it's going to take quite a number of years for that to end up being cheaper than what you would have paid if you were renting instead. But aside from that, there are a large number of individuals who are either homeowners or own multiple properties in a system that I think is quite fair, especially if we examine it on the basis of individuals that own maybe one, maybe two properties on the side that are going to incur like serious negative repercussions because of a lack of protections and that don't seem to be being discussed. And whether or not you think that's just.
Okay, I mean, like I said, I don't want anyone to be like financially crippled by some awful disease that's no one's fault. So yeah, I'm not in favor of like crippling the mom and pop, or indeed even the people who work for the massive housing companies, who certainly here in Britain are the majority of the rented sector, because those people are just people working.
Okay, so now we're gonna move to the topic. 30 minutes into the topic.
Did you know that they can't give you a free trip to I thought I was muted. My bad.
You are now muted.
To the eviction moratorium. The eviction moratorium, meaning we're talking about that. If anybody has comments on the eviction moratorium, now would be the time to speak.
So
Look,
I have a comment about the eviction. Oh,
Okay.
No, go ahead, Sprout. I want to hear
Okay.
your comment so I can bash it. Go ahead.
okay, feel free. So the eviction moratorium, Brett Kavanaugh was brought up in this early on, and I forget exactly who made the statement with Brett Kavanaugh, but Brett Kavanaugh was brought up. Justice Brett, and referring to what he said, Justice Brett Kavanaugh wrote in a concurring opinion that he agrees that the CDC exceeded their power with the moratorium and made clear that he was only allowing it to continue because it was about to end. Had Kavanaugh voted the other way, it would have been 5-4 ruling to vacate the stay, and Judge Friedrich's ruling against the moratorium would have taken effect. This is an exact quote. In my view, clear and specific congressional authorization via new legislation would be necessary for the CDC to extend the moratorium past July 31st. The claim that was said in the opening statements was that Judge Kavanaugh would have been convinced now that it needed to go past and needed to be extended. I would argue the exact opposite, that Judge Kavanaugh made it very clear that he was only willing to let it go to July 31st and his concurring opinion with the Supreme Court.
Well, he actually said those few weeks will allow for additional and more orderly distribution of the congressionally appropriated rental assistance funds. And that was before the Delta variant. So I feel like that's the argument he would still agree with. That's his argument. And we still need a little more time to distribute those funds.
These funds can be distributed during this. I mean, this moratorium isn't going to all of a sudden just end and like the next day people are evicted. Eviction has to go through courts. It has to go through that process, and I think that the government should get on these funds being sent out to landlords, because I think they're severely hurting. They're taking the hit for this. Not the banks, not the renters, the landlords are taking the hit on the back of the head for this, and I think that needs to be fixed. But at the same time, I think it only makes the situation worse when you allow the moratorium to continue.
And you know what's crazy, Sprout? I agree with you in principle that we shouldn't need to extend this. And Biden didn't want to, because this could cause the Supreme Court to come down with a more detailed ruling that takes away even more power from the CDC to do stuff like this in the future. So I wish we didn't have to, and I think it's going to hurt us in the long run. It sucks that the state and local governments failed to distribute the money.
Oh, we're done about the eviction moratorium? Nobody else has any comments?
No, it wasn't as juicy as my ideology, so you know.
True.
It was almost as stupid though.
I mean, I kind of wanted to hear what CTV had to say. He said he was going to be
Bruce,
real talkative.
you did say you were going
in
to
this.
talk a lot, and then BX Bullet was trying to talk earlier, so I think I could throw it over to them.
Okay. No, it's fine.
I'm good. This has been about the caliber of the night, so.
BX?
No, it's okay. I honestly don't remember what I was going to say. So it was something that happened a long time ago. So
Okay. So I guess we could just wrap up early then. Nobody really had any. Guess we all agree on eviction moratorium, or just don't care enough to disagree. Okay then, we'll wrap it up. Thank you all for coming by. I'll let everybody do their outros. I'll throw it over to BX to do the first outro of the night.
hey, all right. Well, thanks for having me, Dylan. I gotta say, like, you're a good moderator. Thank you for doing a good job on that. Thanks for inviting me. I had fun. Anybody, I mean, like, I talk about stuff on my channel all the time like this. I mean, I know people don't like to listen to me or whatever, like in my alternative viewpoints, but I mean, come by, stop by TV on Twitch, and just like, you know, keep an open mind and, you know, come on over and see what it's about. That's it.
Okay, throwing over CTV.
I'm CTV, the real hippy dippy champion. We all know this. The fact that Dylan couldn't respond to a DM earlier in the week only shows me how scared he is of me. It's all clear, right? We understand this. So, for everybody else that was on the panel tonight, Hunter and Kevin were clearly the two most brainless people on the panel. All they could do was just interrupt. And Supreme, I really enjoyed your interaction. IRI, always a pleasure. Sprout, a little rough around the edges, but you're getting there, brother. VX, always a pleasure. And T-Jump, right? Just so his name gets said correctly at one point during the night, right? First interaction, I appreciated it. And as always, happy to be here on the Hippy Dippy. CTV out.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw it over to
Am I
Hunter.
supposed to leave?
Oh, you can if
No.
you want. You don't need to.
Oh.
But you can.
But I think I just want to point out, I think it's really interesting that CTV starts bitching people out and then leaves like a
All
little
right, it's
pussy.
outros.
Yeah,
We can't do. Hey, it's outros. We're not allowed to do that.
No, that's cool. No, I'd like to reply.
Yeah, but you can't say that during your outro. Not now. Okay, Hunter.
Yeah. Thanks, Dylan, for having me on. Guys, you can check me out at my username, Hunter Avalone. Fun discussion. Enjoyed it. I enjoyed the talk about fucking landlords, vaccines, and etc. Yeah. Thanks, Dylan, for hosting. Really enjoyed it.
No problem. Now throwing it over to Irai.
All right. Well, I had a lot of fun. I appreciate you inviting me. Enjoy talking with everybody. Even if I disagreed with them, my friend Sprout and I always seem to get into a tussle, but I love this guy, and I just want to say that I appreciate his passion, even though we're on polar opposite ends of things. I talk electoral politics on my channel. We watch a lot of C-SPAN, see what's going on in the House, the Senate. We have 2 sexy infrastructure bills happening right now. So if you want to learn about how your government operates, come hang out with us. Twitch.tv. I'm really important. Thank you, Dylan.
Okay. Throw it over to Supreme.
I'm Supreme. I think in this moment, I would just really like to thank, some people who supported me. I really like to thank my landlord for letting me just like call him at midnight when, my tub starts backing up and they have to like shop around for contractors to come and fix it for me, and I don't have to pay a dime. It's pretty cool. Thank you.
Gonna throw it over to Sprout. Oh, where can people find you, Supreme? Or are you just a one?
Oh, I don't stream.
Okay.
But you have an amazing camera, though.
Twitch.tv/Wicked Supreme. Okay. Sprout.
All right, I am DSprouticus. You can find me at twitch.tv/DSprouticus or twitter.com/DSprouticus. Or you can give Dylan Burns a follow here. I make appearances here quite often, and I would argue that those are the best output he has on his channel is when I show up and talk. But yeah, give him a follow. But I always love talking. I always love debating. IRI, you were awesome to talk to. And I enjoy talking and doing debates. So if you liked my views or hated my views, feel free to go give me a follow, maybe a subscription if you hated my views that much, to make sure you get notifications when I go live.
Okay. T-Jump.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Sorry about that. I refreshed the page. Yeah, I'm found on twitch.tv/tjump. I'm also on Dylan's OnlyFans. You can check that for details. Thanks for guys for having me on. Really appreciate it. It was fun to be here. Love to be back again sometime, and peace out.
Wonderful. Kevin Logan.
Yes, I'm Kevin Logan, otherwise known as the Based Landlord. That's not true, obviously. I'm a shit tier socialist streamer no one's ever fucking heard of. Who cares? You can find me at twitch.tv/KFLogan1875 or in your local gutter, drunken, speckered with bits of my own vomit. And I just want to say, let's all admire Dylan Burns' frankly rather almost superhuman jawbones. Look at him. Look at him.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Peace.
See y'all later, guys. Thank you so much
All
for
right.
coming on.